Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are live. Let me make sure the camera is set up here correctly. I messed it all up a little bit earlier. Like I said, we're still working on getting the casting couch set up properly, chat. So I think, oh geez. This is going to be a live workshopping. We're the only pod that's just live fixing the graphics. I mean, this is definitely not an audition to be in the ESPN truck, that's for sure. And the problem is the screen to fix it on so small, chat. It may just be what it is. Oh, I think we got it there. Until we switch over to the next shot, and then we'll just have to adjust it again. But make no mistake, we might as well just take all the time we can fixing the graphics in the screen, because there's no point in watching basketball tonight. There's 3 games on tonight. It's a Friday night, primetime hoops, the week kicking off the weekend. Some people just got done with a long week of work. They're getting ready to get home and sit back and watch hoops for the weekend. And, NFL, college football as well, too, of course, as we know, this is like the first real week without that stuff as well. I know Friday night's typically not a day for it, but again, just talking about the weekend in general. And I guess they are setting themselves up for a very eventful day tomorrow. Saturday's supposed to be a pretty intense day of basketball. I think we get games from 11 all the way till close tomorrow, chat. It's just going to be an intense day of hoops. But I guess the flip side of that coin is there's going to be a day when there's just not a lot of hoops going on, and apparently that is tonight. And again, they're going to be primetime matchups tomorrow, so they're not really using up any of the primetime teams today as well. We got Cleveland versus Philly. Cleveland, of course, at the top of their conference, and we've also got Charlotte playing the Trailblazers right now, and then I believe, is it Grizzlies Jazz? Grizzlies, let me see, chat. I think it's Grizzlies Jazz. Grizzlies Pelicans. Pelicans visiting Memphis to take on Ja Morant. A little Zion playing tonight. A little 2019 draft class matchup on NBA TV, and then we're done. Just a little 7 o'clock NBA TV game, and then that's it. So I guess, we'll get out of here and you guys can enjoy your Friday night at some point. It's just, I guess, a big day of hockey. ESPN primetime hockey, chat. The Vegas Golden Knights versus the Dallas Stars. The puck just dropping in Vegas. Unbelievable. I can't believe that the hockey has just usurped. Did we use that word right? I can't believe hockey's just taken over the NBA on a Friday night like that. It's crazy. What do we got? Is it a hockey doubleheader? We got a game after this. X Games Aspen 2025. What is going on, chat? Again, I guess we know what's going on. Tomorrow is going to go crazy. But, wait a second. Unrivaled? We've got a little Unrivaled action. I don't know if we're bad fans or not, chat, but we have not yet tuned in to see the Unrivaled Basketball League. The new women's 3-on-3 league started by, was it Breanna Stewart and Collier? Was that the 2 players that started? Breanna Stewart, we've seen do some interviews for it, so I that's obviously the one that we remember. But there's a couple of players involved. More than just a couple of players as well, too. Takes a lot of people. I'm sure there's a lot of people to shout out. But I know they were under. They're playing some games the other night. I don't know how many games, how many days, they played. Do they play multiple games in a day? The half court intensity of a 3-on-3 game, like, they are shorter, but again, they are more intense, less subbing. So it's not just like you'd be thrilled to just run, 3 or 4 matchups in one day. But a lot of the main players playing, of course, like we said, Stewart and a couple of the main players, involved in starting the league. So, of course, they're, signing right up to be talent. Is that Sabale knocking down the 3? Can we tell her which Sabale is which, chat? Knocking down the 3, it's got to be the better Sabale twin, right? There's one on the Liberty, and then where's the other Sabale twin play for right now? I think she might also be in Dallas. Speaking of the Mavs, but not able to get it to go that end. So it is not a half court. I guess it's a full court, but it looks like it's a shorter court as well, too. So that's kind of fun. You get the up and down action. Pause. Whoa. Hey now, we're only watching this for the basketball chat. That's right. But in basketball terms, you're getting up and down action with the full court play. It's just what it is. There's no denying it. We need to, come up with a better term for it. Ooh, laying it in on the other end. Who's that? Jackson. Is that Rakia Jackson, the rookie? Kind of, at least from a hype standpoint, kind of lost in the shuffle of, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, which Cameron Brink trying to just throw a big monkey wrench into the Spurs season. Just apparently there's some courtside interactions with Wemby and Cameron Brink. Chad, I don't know if you guys saw the post. I didn't really even see the interaction outside of the pictures, but you see Cameron Brink and you see Wemby standing next to each other, and it's another one of those, look how tall Wemby is next to just, another really tall person. Cameron Brink at 6'4", definitely pretty tall, but again, at 6'4", there's, of course, and as a WNBA player, maybe you're just more inclined anyways to maybe look over in the NBA. Maybe you're more inclined to look into the WNBA. It just depends, chap. But, maybe you're more inclined to stay in your profession anyways. When it seems like the basketball, of course, is a very, it's a profession that leads to a lot of relationships, chat. I don't know what the highest, and I guess WNBA, NBA, technically not coworkers. There is no like greater parent company that owns them yet. Not yet. The Saudis haven't bought both leagues yet. Once the Saudis buy the NBA and the WNBA and put them under one, the same company that owns the WWE and UFC, once they swoop in and they buy both of these leagues, then technically they'll be coworkers. But, in terms of the same profession, because like, what do they say? Nurses, Chad, is like, I guess I don't know if they're just taking their stats from watching Grey's Anatomy, but they say that nurses are just, of course, everybody's hooking up as nurses. If you're an NBA player or a WNBA player, you're probably going to be hooking up with, the vice versa of whatever is going on there. Or, again, it just depends. But, you see Wemby next to Cameron Brink. Cameron Brink, Wemby might be one of the guys that, maybe is an eligible bachelor that I don't know. Do we need to look and see if there's like a following situation going on Instagram right now? I mean, let's be honest, chat. Wemby follows Cameron Brink on Instagram. We all know that. I don't even think we have to look. It's just, I think we all know it. But, again, as basketball players, as two highly successful professionals, high achieving is always, going to be more attractive than not, chat. So I don't know what's going to happen. Is this going to be, like we said, we've seen a real rise in these. So I guess, it's just probably just the algorithm starts tuning into it as well too, chat. But, you got like, of course, Josh Allen and Haley Steinfeld getting engaged this year. Of course, that's athlete actor. You got Joe Burrow with the home invasion. And it seems like, there's other invasions taking place. But now we get like, now who knows, chat. I just... you see Cameron Brink, you see Wemby courtside, and it's like, okay, well, again, chat, we all see the smile on Wemby's face. So I don't want to assume what's going on with Wemby. I think Wemby's been pretty focused on his career up until this point. I think that's for sure, right? And make no mistake, again, Wemby's been an eligible bachelor. I guess, once you turn 18 or whatever, chat, but, Wemby's been an eligible bachelor for, I guess he's not like 25, right? He's not. That's the thing, Chad. Also, like, you start getting into your mid-20s and you're like, oh, yeah, even the young NBA players, they're not even your age anymore. You're like, they're like a whole other class behind you now. It's like this guy would be like a freshman, sophomore, junior in college. It's like, there's buddies going for masters and things like that. It's like, no, actually, this is just it's not quite a whole new generation, but it's getting close. Like, how old is Wemby exactly? Wemby age check. Is he 20 yet? He might be 20. He might still be. Okay, he is 21. So he's still a peer. 21, mid 20s, early 20s. I don't know, it's close. I feel like the 4-year high school to college gap, in terms of the culture that you get in those 4 years, like, it can really change. The class behind you, like the freshman to senior class, You're not. I mean, there are obviously the mega things that everybody's locked in, but just in terms of him being like a younger generation type guy, like it's starting to push it there with the guys, and especially now, the guys now like Cooper Flag, and it's crazy that like you're like, oh yeah, Cooper Flag's actually just like way younger than us now, chat. And the Boozer twins, I mean, the Boozer twins are even the grade. I did Cooper Flag reclassify, but the Boozer twins right now are still even a grade behind him, and then there's guys in the 2027 draft that are already being there. We were seeing clips of a 10-year-old that's like 2031. I think it's the pick that the team just traded to Phoenix. Who is the other end of that team, chat? Utah? I think Utah's 2031 pick was potentially going to be this kid that I just saw on Instagram. But the basketball highlights, we need to clarify. But yeah, chat. Anyways, unrivaled basketball. I forgot about the old 3-on-3. And we need to get a good look at the rosters, too. Was Caitlin Clark in this? We know Angel Reese was playing, so we need to figure out if Angel Reese is playing tonight or not. How long is this going for? What's the time block on the unrivaled? How much did they get on TNT? An hour? Then the Laces Basketball Club versus the Vinyl Basketball Club? What is this? Oh, okay, that is more. Okay, more unrivaled. And then, oh, nope. And then we go to the post game. And then Transformers at 9 o'clock. Okay, so a couple of unrivaled games. And then we're going to get to see Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox. So what a night for TNT. Whoa. No way. Are we going to get a potential Angel Reese, Megan Fox doubleheader on TNT, chat? We are locked in. Holy cow. Is Charles Barkley going to be doing post game? I mean, it'd be a hard pivot for Angel Reese and Charles Barkley. But I guess it would be a full night of things that would just, be popping up in our Instagram feed on a random night anyway. So we just get it on TNT. I mean, they'd have our viewership. So I guess, yeah, shout out. We should have put it in the thumbnail. Who knew? Central C's album and unrivaled basketball, chat. It's a fun night here on the Rem and Sam podcast. Shout out to Central C. Let us know what you guys think in the chat of the new album. His first album, technically, seems like the man has had, of course, quite the rise getting to this first album, but that first full studio project is finally here, and of course, we'll go through it in a little bit. But what do we got? 7.5 left in the second quarter of this Philly-Cleveland game, and Philly is hanging in there, chat. So I guess, in a league where you're potentially scripting out what is happening, if you're gonna put in 3 games on a Friday night, they better at least script these 3 games to be close. They better make sure that we're not going to be looking at our phones because it's 72-40 Cleveland at halftime. Cleveland's just on fire from 3. Embiid's out, obviously. We don't even have to. I was hearing talks about, of course, chat. We just need to come up with a name for this segment that is like reacting to the headlines that we see on the TVs at work, because of course, there's like the closed captioning and stuff that you can read, but like, in the restaurant, the music it's not a Buffalo Wild Wings, like it is an actual restaurant. So yes, it does have the social bar aspect of it with the TVs, but it's not like that's the main sound. So, you're just seeing these headlines, you're just watching Cowherd just make these rants, you're just, looking at Nick Wright, and then, occasionally you get the right Sports Center host, and then you get distracted, and you're like, oh, wait a second, I got to get back to work. But, I mean, we need to come up with an actual segment that is the titles, like just reacting to these headlines that we're seeing, because people were talking about, should the Sixers shut Embiid down for this season? And it's like, is this even a story? Like, if they wanted to do it, I mean, what is even the difference at this point? Yes, I get there still is that lingering hope of them making the play-in game, but, I mean, let's be honest, chat. We can all be honest with ourselves. This Philly team is not going to do anything in the playoffs. I know that there's a hope that if you have Embiid and Paul George and Maxey together, I mean, that is still a talented trio. I get it. Talented trio, the peak version of them. And I think the peak version of the player is still, like, even if Embiid can't get back to the 100% MVP version of Embiid, let's even just, be pessimistic and say 87% version of Embiid and Maxey and Paul George is still a really good team. Because again, Embiid may be down a little bit, but ideally the supporting cast is up around him a little bit. So yes, you'd want to put that supporting cast around a peak Embiid. But again, just in general, in the greater Eastern Conference, the peak version of those three guys is still a deadly team. But this year is not the year. We're halfway through the season. They've barely played together. They've been injured as well, too, all season. So it's one thing when you bring a guy in for a trade halfway through the year and you're like, okay, now we got to figure out. I mean, we got the trade deadline approaching here at the beginning of February. It's one. And we all know that with the trade rules as well, too, that, nothing's going to happen. But, it's one thing to bring a guy in halfway through the season and expect to work him in just on a short amount of games and be fully healthy and just go, okay, the really only restriction here is just the amount of time we have left. It's like Philly has a time issue. They just haven't had that much, again, minutes on the court together. But it's also been because of injuries. So they're just, are these guys going to be even fully healthy this season? Probably not. Again, of course, we were discussing whether Embiid shouldn't even play or not. But it's like, at this point, even if there is a chance, if they're not mathematically eliminated, if it's still pretty close, like, let's actually look here. How many games behind are they in the Eastern Conference? Are they even, like, behind, or are they actually... pause. Are they actually like still like the 9 or 10 seed? I mean, even if they were the 8 seed at this point, of course, their pick is top 6 protected, which maybe even makes this easier. Because if you just kind of go, well, we'll play the cards how we fall. And, last year we were able to get McCain in the lottery, later. Was he 16? He wasn't even 14, right? He was like out past the lottery. So they were still able to maximize the spot in the draft that they had. Yeah, I mean, look, even at this, they're 4 games behind Chicago right now. I mean, Boston is, whatever. But Chicago, there is the 10 seed. Philly is the 11 seed. Chicago's 19 and 26. Philly is 15 and 27. So I guess there is a little bit of difference in games played there. So they are 2.5 games behind Chicago. So, I guess it is technically like a good week if Embiid comes back and they're in the mix. But this is not the year, Chad. They're obviously... Embiid's not... I mean, again, there's years where he's been healthy going into the playoffs and he hasn't been healthy exiting the playoffs. So you're telling me... I guess you could argue that the season where he rested the whole season is maybe the healthiest season that he's going to be in. But, again, is it rest or is it recovery? If he's recovering the whole season, then you're telling me that... Embiid with his injury history is now going to be back in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Boston looks weaker right now too. I get it. Like maybe the Eastern Conference is a little shaky, and I know Cleveland is a tough team to play. Like Cleveland's going to take down Philly if Philly plays Cleveland, and I know Jared Allen and Mobley is a tough. And that's the thing. You go, okay, peak Embiid, Jared Allen, Mobley. What are they actually going to do in Maxey in the backcourt? Could that be an interesting way to kind of neutralize what Cleveland's going on? But no, Cleveland's the 3-point shooting. It's the depth is too much. New York at this point, I think, with the way Towns is playing offensively, he would just be too much for Embiid. And I mean, Towns, if he has his own struggles rebounding, like that's going to be the one matchup where you actually think that might be an advantage. And he's actually been good rebounding as well too, especially as the years, I guess the rebounding number has been good for him necessarily throughout the season. Philly still up by 3. I mean, I can't even picture anything that Paul George has done this year. Shout out Paul George. The one thing that I can picture is the thumbnail to his video that said, "Is podcasting actually harder than basketball?" Pause. But outside of actually on the court stuff, there's no real highlights that jump out. But yeah, get that top 6 pick. Protect it. If that's the only way to keep it is to land in the top 6, then it's like, well, I guess the plan kind of made itself, chat. There's nothing we can do. Our hands are tied, This pick is top 6 protected. There's really only one thing to do this year. And if it's protecting Embiid by not resting him or by not playing him and just resting him the whole season, then go for it. But again, how much has he played? Has he played 10 games yet? He hasn't even been out there. Like, it literally doesn't even matter for this year. With all due respect to Embiid and the greatness that Embiid is, like, we're not saying that Embiid doesn't matter as a player. Embiid still matters as a player, hopefully. Oh, hopefully, chat. He has played. Whoa, Embiid, 13 games. Maybe I underestimated him, chat. Embiid, durable. Never mind. 24 a game, 45% from the field, 32% from three. I mean, it's just going to be tough to throw away that age 30 year, you know? And maybe as a shot maker, you know, he's still going to have, again, he's still a valuable player in the league. But in terms of impact for this season, he just hasn't been he hasn't even been efficient when he's out there. So, again, with all due respect, you're shutting down a guy for the season that's shooting 45% from the field. Like, you know, I mean, sure. I guess that sucks, you know? I guess we're not going to have our 32% three-point shooter out there. I mean, you know, it's Embiid, it's the gravity, it's the playmaking. He was at he's less than 4 assists a game this year. He was at 5.5, you know, last year for the couple years before that. Giannis is at like 6 a game this year as well too, which, you know, you start again in our quest to continue to make sure that Giannis stays at the second best player in the league rankings. It's like the one real thing that you have over Jokic is the playmaking. And I guess, you know, the three-point shooting as well too. But if you just kind of go, you know, the greater scoring, like Giannis, of course, can just kind of overall be as effective as Jokic. I mean, the three-pointers, of course, we know what that does to the math of it all. But Giannis at 6 a game. Jokic is at 10. So in some ways, Jokic is close. Jokic is closer to doubling Giannis than Giannis is to catching him. But Giannis is still like a couple assists away from being like, okay, it's not, you know, 2 more. If Giannis is at like 8 a game, then it's like, I mean, he's kind of in the same ballpark, you know? And at 6 a game, it's like, okay, if Giannis had some better, and they have been shooting the ball well this year. That's, you know, probably why that assist numbers been up a little bit. But it's like if his teammates were even better, you know, what would that possibly be? Because I think his play, obviously his passing is not as good as Jokic, but again, just as it crosses the threshold of great. So it's like, okay, how much excess greatness do you need from Jokic? I just love Giannis, you know? Pause. But, you know, do we need just too much? It's like so, you know, so much greatness, chat. We just don't have room for all this Jokic greatness, boss. It's like, okay, what am I going to actually do with 12 assists a game? You know, at some point, it's just too much. You can't deal with it. Nikola Jokic, he's just too big, chat. Too big, you know? It's just what it is. Okay, there we go. Little Paul George fadeaway. Love to see it. I think that might be the first shot that we've seen Paul George hit all year. It can't be. Kelly Oubre. I mean, if you just flipped stats with Paul George and Kelly Oubre, would you feel better about Paul George? Who knows, chat? Who knows? But I mean, Cleveland just continues. I mean, the Boston thing just continues to make Cleveland even look better as well too in the regular season, because I mean, at the end of the day, you're only going to go as far as you're motivated, right, chat? So I get that Boston is still as talented as we've seen, but even Simmons was on his pod, like officially sounding the alarm bells as well too about, you know, his expectations for what this team could be in the playoffs, and for if there's, you know, potential seeding issues in the finals. I guess if they're in the finals, then it's like, you know, how deep do these issues actually run? It becomes one of those things again. It's like, do we need to trade Tatum and Brown? It's like, well, they were in the finals again. And the East is objectively better this year. So that's another thing. Like, you know, the East was weaker last year. So it was just from that mental standpoint of the mental ease of, you know, one, rooting for the Celtics, and then I guess from the standpoint of picking the Celtics, and then, you know, I get just that overall confidence of, you know, that of watching a team and seeing who's going to win. Like, we were just more confident that Boston was going to be in the finals last year. It was just an easier pick to make, and it was an easier thing to root for if you're the Celtics fan. So in some ways, oh, chat, spoiler alert, I guess spoiler behind the scenes, but I've got this microphone stand attached to a ladder right now, just leaned up against the wall, and I almost just knocked it over. So if you see a ladder, just IT, if there's a ladder that just comes crashing down in the middle of the pod, clip it, and we'll put it up. But what were we saying about Boston, chat? Speaking of Boston, the ladder is green. I guess this whole room's green. But the motivation for Boston, they're not motivated at all. They need a carrot dangling. But you know, again, just because it's maybe a tougher path doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to get there at the end of the day. Like, the talent is still there, and maybe once they get to the play, like, and they're still at the top of the East. You know, they are 5 games away from Cleveland right now. But again, it is a little like we were saying with Jokic, jokingly, with the excess greatness. Obviously, you know, you want your player to be able to do as much as possible, but it does become a little in the regular season, I guess, until we see Cleveland in the playoffs, and maybe they just. You know, like Orlando's the 7 seed right now. Atlanta's the 8 seed. So if that was a first round matchup, Atlanta is a good team. But, you know, if Cleveland just like totally wipes them off the court, then it's, you know, 4 games, 5 games, and they beat them. You know, Atlanta only wins that game when they're down 3-0, and they have nothing to prove. And then we're actually talking about motivation for Cleveland at that point. But maybe they do get into the regular season and you start wiping these teams. But also Boston did beat Cleveland as well, too. So it's not like Cleveland has just gone in and totally dominated that matchup. But again, they are struggling right now. They also, you know, it is a little bit of them going on the road. Like when they go on these trips, you know, they are definitely don't seem as up for it as they used to. So that in some ways is, you know, I think again, it all comes down at the end of the day that it would be nice if you're just, obviously your star players were just like every day, like pit bulls, like, I gotta get to, you know, Kobe Bryant, I gotta get to work. Like, you know, we gotta win. Every game's a championship. Every game we gotta win. We're gonna go 82-0, like all that stuff. But again, it's that you gotta trust them a little bit, I guess, because they've already done it. And they got there last year. They are the reigning champs. Do you trust a team less, though, if they're the reigning champs? Because, you know, in one way it is their window. In the other sense it is, you know, historically just really difficult to win the back-to-back titles. But it's like Kansas City this year, you know, just because Buffalo is the best they've ever been, you know, and Kansas City is still favored by 1.5, and Kansas City's been playing better. Yeah, Kansas City was the number 1 seed in their conference, unlike Boston. But still, again, it's not like Boston's fallen behind these other teams where they're. I guess you could honestly make a case that they're not behind a team that they're necessarily less talented than. Like, you could say that they are still, I guess, less talented than the Cavs, but the Cavs just do have a lot of depth, and they are shooting the ball really well. And yeah, again, with the finals now, and Brown has a finals MVP, like Tatum and Brown clearly have more pedigree than Garland and Mitchell do. But, you know, Mobley and Allen, once you start going, they're 3 and 4s to Boston's 3 and 4s, and then they're 5 and 6. You know, like, you know, who's like actually the third player that you trust on Boston this year? Like, Porzingis has been hurt. Derek White hasn't been necessarily shooting the ball well, and Drew Holiday is just, you know, at a different phase in his career. So once you start going just the trust rankings down the Cavs bench, you know, you could even start doing with some of these other teams. Like, is Bridges a better third best player than anybody on the Celtics? Just straight up. And again, the Celtics have, at the peak of their powers, they have length, they have versatility, they do have 3-point shooting with the defense and that size. Like, with that size of White and Holiday in the backcourt, they can have that guard playmaking dynamic with both those guys and still be able to kind of switch and hang with smaller or the larger wings and still be able to deal with certain matchups. But again, if we're just going to kind of go the individual player rankings, it becomes a little bit of a conversation. So they are still in a great spot overall, obviously. But, you know, of course, you're going to go on a little bit of a losing streak and Boston fans are going to start complaining. But again, with Cleveland continuing to pull away, like, it really is. I guess it does become a little bit of a Kansas City Buffalo thing if this was in the playoffs. And they don't have the same history, obviously, but it just becomes, is the team that kind of always, and again, not that Boston is Kansas City. It's definitely a lesser version of it. But, you know, it's that, is it the team do we trust, or is it the time to just hand over, you know, the belt to a new team and just get a new Eastern Conference champion. Because both years that they've had the Eastern Conference or the conference finals MVPs, right, is both in Boston. So Boston has also made back-to-back finals, right? It's not just that they would win back-to-back finals, it's that they would make 3 in a row. Oh, chat, we might have to bet Cleveland now after thinking that. Maybe the odds aren't great. Oh, no, that's right. Yeah, so Miami, Denver last year, and then Boston, Golden State was 2 years ago. So they're going to make 3 finals in 4 years? Again, maybe Tatum and Brown, this is their era. But I don't know. I'm starting to feel good about the Cavs. And that's never a good sign for a team when I start to feel good about them. Like Buffalo, I'm starting to feel good about Buffalo tomorrow, and it's like, oh, that probably means that the Chiefs are going to win. Which, I mean, for me, honestly, is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. Like, I don't know. I mean, you guys know I like Mahomes. It is what it is. I've liked Mahomes since 16, 17, you know? The early Texas Tech days. Because he was balling out in that second season at Texas Tech. He was throwing for 400 yards, couple touchdowns. Like, that was the great thing about being, you know, just like a novice sports fan still as a teen. Obviously not a novice sports fan as a teenager, but still compared to people like, you know, compared to Stephen A, it's not like we're catching up when we're, a teenager at that time when we were in high school when Pat Mahomes is at Texas Tech. But he's so much fun. He's just so dynamic, so electric, putting up all the stats, like a great fantasy player, like a player you watch in college football at that time and just go, man, I wish we had the video game right now because I'd want to log in with Texas Tech and just play with this Texas Tech. Like just those random Fox Big 12 games, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. I think there was like a big matchup in there at one point. Obviously, the Texas Tech Oklahoma game with him and Baker Mayfield is the one that lives in infamy. I guess I don't remember 100%. That had to have been a Fox broadcast, right? But yeah, I mean, just, you know, you're not like, you're just like, of course this guy's going to be a good quarterback. He puts up 400 yards and 4 touchdowns a game. Like, and, you know, it's not like, you know, he's going to be the potentially greatest quarterback of all time when he's at Texas Tech when you're a teenager. But, you know, you're just more easily accepting of that guy being a great quarterback. In that class as well, too, I can be honest. Like, I guess now it's not going to be hard to be honest, pause. But I like when Deshaun Watson was in that class, I was like, I don't know about Deshaun Watson, chat. And it was a bad take as well, too. Again, teenager Rem was not locked in. But I was like, I think he led college football that year in interstate. Like 17 picks that year. There were a couple of games that were like really ugly kind of because of Deshaun Watson. But it was one of those things where at the end of these games, he would be awesome. And then he was just awesome against Alabama. So it's like, wait, he's going to get drafted based on these 2 awesome Alabama games? But guess what? Those 2 awesome Alabama games were totally worth it. And yeah, when Deshaun Watson was at his peak, I mean, peaked, even still, like the fact that Deshaun Watson was as good as he was, it's like, I mean, you're wrong about him if you don't think he was going to be that good. And then Trubisky, again, it's not, at that age, you're not watching for the draft specifically. You're not, was I going to YouTube? I might have, you know, been a little on the YouTube deep dives trying to figure out some of the players. Definitely after the Colts drafted a guy, but maybe not as much before the draft. But, you know, you're watching enough college football at that point, then you hear Trubisky's name is up at the top of the list, and you're like, wait a second, who's Trubisky? Okay, I guess. You're like, I don't really remember this guy. Like, yeah, that's what we're saying. Mahomes, like, if you're locked into college football and just watching these random games, you're like, oh, Mahomes is at least a lot of fun to watch. Just like, you're not, as a teenager, you're not seeing the mistakes like that. Like, you're not overthinking the, oh, is he not doing the like, you know, I'm not playing high school football at this point, so I'm not thinking about progressions, you know? I'm just looking at the end result, going the yardage and the stats and the airing it out down the field. It's like he can make all the throws, he's running around. Like, this guy's just the most fun player to watch. There are people that have the receipts, Chad. I'm telling you, they're out there. Do we need to get him to call in? Maybe we will. Kind of, because I don't know if they're the biggest Mahomes people either. Pause. We can talk crap about Mahomes' success all these years later. But obviously, you know, watching him all these years, Chad, it's like, and you know, a lot of these guys, of course, go back to college and span, you know, a good chunk of time now. But still, I just the random where it felt like Mahomes was like the one guy where we knew about him before people knew about him, and then the fact that he like just randomly became this good as he was, it's like, you know, we'll never. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever like just like I mean, Mahomes might go down as like one of the 4 greatest players of all time. So I will never just randomly like a player in college football again that much. That just pops off. So it's like, you know, we just have to absorb as much of the Mahomes era as we possibly can. I don't know if that's a pause. I felt like if we had said like soak in or something, that was a pause. So I quick pivoted to absorb, but still, you never know. But obviously, I want to see I want to see. I mean, again, just to be like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be a good quarterback, and then a decade later, he just is randomly winning 3 titles in a row. It's like, okay, you know, I guess I was right about that one. So I guess I kind of do want to see the history thing happen with Mahomes, but it's like this has got to be the year for Buffalo, you know, of all the years. And yeah, I guess to tie it back to the Cleveland thing, you know, it does seem to. There does seem to be the factors outside of just maybe on the court stuff as well too. Where that is the problem with the Kansas City Buffalo matchup at this point is we look at that matchup and go, okay, like Buffalo and Josh Allen. Josh Allen's clearly having a better season than Mahomes. In you know, the 2 little ways that he can. Like at the end of the day, you know, Mahomes' team is a game away from the Super Bowl and in the same spot, and he's been awesome at the end of the games, and it's like it's all still the same Mahomes thing. But you know, Allen has been amazing this year. He's been unstoppable. And the Bills are playing well enough that they should be able to win this game. But Kansas City is still actually playing well themselves. Again, and they're winning these close games. And they're still the top of the conference. And Boston is still almost right there. But now, I guess at this point in the season, they are maybe sliding worse than we've seen Kansas City slide at all. And I don't even know if Kansas City's like the right comp, you know? It's not like there has been a team that has won just one title in this stretch that has been random. Because the one team that has gotten I guess the Rams maybe like are Boston the Rams, but you know the Rams they're not consistently a great regular season team the way Boston is. And you know Brady got that other title the year Mahomes is in the league, so that team of course is way different, and Brady is now, you know, moved into a different phase of his career, obviously, getting roasted and trying to run the Raiders, which I'm sure he'll just get roasted for again. The roast of Tom Brady will not stop. Make no mistake. It was on Netflix for one night, but it's on Twitter and Instagram almost every weekend. But, I mean, what were we saying about Mahomes, Jen? I was just thinking about Brady running the Raiders, pause, because we were hearing, again, shout out to Rosillo, but we were on our just, you know, our Friday Ringer drive around pod session. When we were throwing Rosillo on, we had Diana Rossini on today. She was saying that Brady is basically just running all the Raiders organization at this point, which I guess Brady is like the Elon Musk to Mark Davis's Trump at this point. He's like the assistant that is just apparently doing everything. I don't know what's going on in Vegas chat, but we all know like the Brady, because I heard about the Brady Ben Johnson interview part of it, and it was like, oh, that's a great idea. You know, you have Brady in there, of course, as a coach, like you're gonna use, or as an owner, like you're gonna use that to your advantage, and you know, have him show up to a dinner with Ben Johnson. Like that makes total sense. You know, pick a nice spot, make sure, you know, it's something that Brady likes. So I don't know how big his ownership stake is. Like it's 2%. You know, it's not like, you know, you can afford to waste his. I guess, you know, smaller percentage owner. It's one of those things. It's like, do you have to value it more because it's Brady? I guess at the end of the day, his 2% is gonna be more valuable than maybe just a random guy's, you know, 2%. But I guess maybe we shouldn't just project the Dwayne Wade, you know, Jay-Z ownership stake on him. Is Brady more successful businessman than Jay-Z? I don't think so, chat. Plus Jay-Z's been, I think, doing business a little bit more, right? Definitely longer, chat. But in terms of like post the Hollywood success of it all,
because Brady, I don't think, was the type of athlete that was doing like serious NIL business in college. So, when maybe Jay-Z was doing business in college, I don't know if Brady was necessarily doing business in college the same way. And then we know those early contracts as well too had to be Super Bowl favorable for the Pats because he was a 7th round draft pick. But once TB12 started kicking off and things really started going, and the money that he has now, the Fox contract, I don't know how much of that has been guaranteed. And now that he does have the ownership stake in the Raiders, I'm assuming they cut you a check at the end of the year. Does Brady just get a check in the mail that's like, you made $4 million from the Raiders this year, and then he just puts that in the bank? I don't know, chat. I'd be pretty sick. Does it go into some kind of... And I guess maybe your ownership stake, you're buying into it with the perks, so you're returning it with the perks yearly, So it's like, yes, you paid in, the one time for ownership, but every year we have to give you season tickets. So it's like you're paying for those. At the end of the day, you're just paying for those season tickets at the end of the year. But, and Brady has, again, bought in with some power as well, too. He found the one owner that maybe is willing to let Brady kind of have some operating mobility. And maybe, honestly, at the end of the day, that's why Brady was going to Vegas. I guess we'd have to go back and revisit the news stories around that time. But for us, we were looking at the headlines of more just Brady being in the league as an ownership role, and especially what that was going to do to his impact. It's like a weird thing for him to just get started in this announcing gig, and then also he now is approved for the ownership thing, and how is that going to shape his role in the booth, which is kind of funny that, honestly, because he did have a couple of weeks there before that was like official. I forget which week that actually went into effect. So I guess he could have been in the meetings and could have been doing the stuff that would have been illegal now, pre that official approval. But since then, it's not like he's necessarily, you could tell a difference. It's not like you're like, oh, Brady is much worse. It's like Brady was getting better in those early days anyways. So he definitely had time to learn and develop those skills without having necessarily those things that he can't do as an owner in regards to that job, with some of the meetings and interactions with the players in the playbooks and learning what they're going to do. As an owner of the Raiders, he can't call a Broncos-Chargers game on Sunday night, or I guess Fox is not, and Fox wouldn't do Broncos-Chargers either because they'd be doing NFC. But, he can't be calling a Cowboys-Eagles game as a Raiders owner and be like, okay, so wait a second, what do you guys do in the red zone? What's your 3rd and 3 package? What's your 2-minute drill? What's your scenarios for kickoffs, and how you guys handle the blitz pressures, and how do you feel about the right side? Like, he can't just go through all these schematic things with these other teams if he's literally financially invested in another one. So obviously he's going to be restricted, but not restricted with the power apparently over in Vegas. So I don't, and kind of like the way, I don't know if Musk is on that committee where he's supposed to be like cleaning up the government. Like, is that what Pete Carroll's going to be doing in Vegas? We're just going to keep riding this analogy out, chat. But it's the news right now, so I guess it's what's on our mind. But I guess that, they brought in Pete Carroll to do like the reform job. Pete Carroll's going to, I don't know if is this secretly like a Netflix show, like NFL bar restoration? What's the name of that show, chat? I forget what that guy, Bar Rescue, that's what it's called. Is this NFL team rescue with Pete Carroll? Because he gets like the little 3-year deal. He gets the, obviously at this stage in his career, I don't know what the stamina and the longevity is for him in a coaching position, but he can give you a couple of decent seasons anyways. Some short but sweet tenure for Pete Carroll in Vegas. But you go try to get Ben Johnson, maybe one of the young signal callers, and then maybe a quarterback in next year's draft. But since they were able to strike out on that, it's honestly not a bad move. I don't mind it. You're going to get some stability there. I think at work, as 7-8 wins, I think it's going to be better. I know at the end of the day, it's like you kind of want to be tanking out to get a quarterback if you're not a bad team. But maybe that's next year. Maybe next year is okay, Pete Carroll. It is actually okay if you win a couple of games. Is this a Garnett jersey retirement? I guess we were what were we watch? We were watching. We can't even remember chat. It's how we get to ramble and it's like two things at once. But uh, Cavs. Who's the other team? Sixers chat. Sixers so forgettable this year. Jesus. Sorry, Paul George. Sorry, Matt. And Maxey. I was so excited for the Maxey season. That has to be one of the biggest bummers. So wait, why Boston? And again, Boston's not even playing tonight. Was this the other night? Shout out. Did we just miss out on the Garnett halftime retirement? I guess this is what happens when you just don't watch the other team's halftime shows. Oh no, they're just showing a compilation. I was gonna say there's no way that they're just now retiring Garnett's jersey. They're showing a compilation. We've got Wade going up here. We've got a couple. Are they gonna show a statue compilation? Get Wade's statue? I think they were gonna show a statue compilation and then decided when they got to Wade's to just maybe pivot to a jersey raising competition. But again, you know, the culture vibes with Pete Carroll, Brock Bowers. You know, Pete Carroll will get along well with Brock Bowers, I think. Is that what it really was? It was like, who's our Well, I guess we don't have a quarterback as our franchise player. We have a tight end, so we just have to fit the vibe of our tight end. Let's get Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's a tight ends coach. He's going to build a tough football team. A lot of suicides and push-ups for the Las Vegas Raiders going forward. Max Crosby, Brock Bowers, and Pete Carroll. I mean, Jerry Jones would just love to coach the Raiders. Make no mistake. Who did the Cowboys hire? Did the Cowboys actually hire a head coach today, chat? Because, again, listening to Russillo's pod, I thought I heard them say a name, and I was like, there's no way. I was like, this is a guy that's actually getting up for a head coaching job? Okay, so it's just reports? Yeah, there's no way. Because on Russillo's pod, they were talking about Brian Schottenheimer to the Cowboys. Which, I mean, at some point, Jerry Jones's kids have to go to him and go, Dad, you can't hire you can't just hire a white coach. Like, you can't just keep going down the list of white head coaches until you finally get to Brian Schottenheimer. It's like, let's maybe look somewhere else, Jerry Jones. Come on, what are we doing here? You interviewed Robert Saleh. You know, Brian Flores is out there. Like, there's really only kind of one thing that is a common thread in the last couple of head coaches that Jerry Jones has had. And I guess really that all the Cowboys have had, right? Because, they had Tom Landry for like 85 years when the franchise first started? Or, you know, at least way back to the early days of the franchise. But since Jerry Jones has taken over, what did he trade for Jimmy Johnson? Parcells, Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy. So again, some of those guys obviously totally deserving of their head coaching jobs. We're not saying that necessarily. Barry Switzer? Yeah, Tom Landry was the first ever Cowboys head coach, 1960 all the way to 1988. I know Jerry Jones gets a lot of crap for firing Tom Landry. And you know, he gets a lot of it mostly for, I think, the way it happened and for not letting Tom Landry know. But also, it was like 30 years of him coaching the head. You know, it's just like, okay, yeah, maybe it was time for him to move on. I'm sure. 3-13 the previous year. I mean, they maybe had fallen off a little bit. Tom Landry maybe, you know, in his Biden years. The last couple of years at the Cowboys, Jerry Jones had to step in and go, okay, we need to bring in a different guy. But, I mean, again, with all due respect to Brian Schottenheimer, you know, Marty Schottenheimer, legendary. We're very pro Marty Schottenheimer. To be honest, when Russillo first said Schottenheimer, I was like, wait a second, I thought Marty Schottenheimer is going to coach the Dallas Cowboys. I was like, I don't think that is possible because, yeah, Schottenheimer passed away in 2021. I was going to look up the year. I couldn't remember exactly which year, but it's like I'm pretty sure that, you know, again, rest in peace. Shout out. One of the great coaches to, you know, and had a little Colts run in there as well, too. 1971 as a player. And then, of course, a long run as an NFL coach. Just looking back to the Marty Schottenheimer years.
The good old days, chat. Remember the good old days? The Marty Schottenheimer years? But I was like, wait a second, what is going... I was like, is this where Jerry Jones is at, that he thinks he can hire Marty Schottenheimer from the grave to just go... It's like, how good has AI gotten? That they're just the first ever AI head coach, AI Marty Schottenheimer, is going to coach the Cowboys. But no, it turned out it was Brian Schottenheimer that his name was around. And Brian Schottenheimer got fired as an offensive coordinator the last time he had a job. So again, shout out. I'm not trying to take the man's bread. I'm saying I think the man... Yeah, let's keep the man in the league. We got to have characters like Brian Schottenheimer in the league, you know? Can we have 32 good offensive coordinators? Apparently not. You know, we gotta have a couple of Brian Schottenheimers hanging around. But that's right, he was I always forget that he was the Dallas OC the last 2 years. I mean, come on, chat. Come on. So I guess in some ways, does he get a little bit of a pass because it's a promotion and it would be moving the offensive coordinator into the head coaching role? But still, chat, I think you've got maybe hire based on talent. Hire the best available. And I'm just saying, if the best available is maybe not something that Jerry Jones has always thought about in the past, maybe it's 2025. Let's start looking that way, Jerry Jones. I think we need to, let's just go out there and say these Brian Schottenheimer rumors are, with all due respect, you know, if he wants to stay on as the OC, maybe that's a conversation to be had. You know, I don't know if they'd want me to be the owner if they were having that conversation, but, you know, maybe he still is around for the long term in the organization. And now Mitchell with the 3. The Cavs up by 6, chat. 9 minutes in the third as we get underway here in the second half. And maybe Cleveland's coming out to dominate. Oh, Yabusele in the post over Dean Wade. I mean, this is what we've gotten to on a Friday night, chat. Make no mistake, we're just going to log off now and go to sleep so we can wake up tomorrow and just get back to the normal NBA hoops, because Yabusele versus Dean Wade, what did I just watch? What is this? We might as well just go back to the unrivaled, chat. I don't even want why I said might as well. What do we got here? Phantom versus Mist? Okay. 2 teams based around, you know, vague visibility. Just opaqueness. But we got Phil Handy here in the mix. Shout out. Long overdue for a head coaching role. Maybe showing his chops in the unrivaled league will help an NBA team maybe look his way. Oh, playing to a target score 73. This has got to be 2s and 3s. Is this next shot wins? Brianna Stewart in the post. See, this is a post up. There we go. And she got it to go. Oh, and she's on the miss. They're down, chat. 64-70. So is Brianna Stewart going to lead a comeback? So it's Sabali on the Phantom. Versus Stewart on the mist. Sabali and Brittany Griner. We got Brittany Griner, and who's number 3? Who else do we got out here, chat? Unfortunately, I can't read the names on the back of the jerseys. And what we got, Jackson and Stewart. I mean, this is going to be good for Jackson as well, too. This is good for the rookies. Like, the Drew League is kind of fun for the young players for the NBA. I know, you know, Chet unfortunately got hurt in Drew League. So, at the end of the day, when a guy goes down in the meaningless summer basketball, it's like, oh, everybody stop. Not a good idea. You know, break up the recess. But just getting some unofficial minutes against some top-end talent, certain matchups. You know, there's one-on-one, maybe in the 3-on-3 scenario, she's going to get the ball a lot too. And in that rebuilding LA team, you know, they're definitely going to be relying on her offense, I'm assuming, next year. But you get kind of an early high usage thing next to Stewart just because it's 3-on-3. And Stewie just pulled, I mean, not at this point in the game, down 3 with the targets, down 3 with 3 left to go on the target score for the Phantom. Like, Stewie's going to take over at this point. 67-70. Uh-oh, chat. This is the intensity of the Elam ending.
The Phantom get a bucket to go, so it's 72-67. If the Phantom get another shot, they win. Stewart! Fouled. She's going to the line. So you can win on a free throw, I think. If it's anything like the All-Star game, at least like the All-Star game was, you should be able to win on a free throw and should be able to, if you draw a foul, be able to close this one out. But the anticipation of getting to that target score versus the countdown of the clock, chat. So here we go. Stewart can't miss. She had a couple of misses in the playoffs, even though they won. There's a couple moments where it's like, oh, Stewie, what are we doing? Wow, shout out to the Unrivaled, riveting basketball. But somebody at work was joking around. They were like, what are you going to do, go home and watch Unrivaled? And I was like, bro, don't even joke around. I might. It's not even that far off the path of Rem and Sam to be tuning into some Unrivaled action. Make no mistake. And I mean, Rakia Jackson, must-watch TV, chat. Oh, wait, who's the third player? Can we get a shot here? Oh, nameplate off screen. Tough. Got to put those on the top of the jersey instead of the bottom. Where's that Brittany Griner defense versus Stewart in these last couple of minutes? Brittany! And Stewart not even on Griner. So they sub in Samuelson for the Phantom? Katie Lou Samuelson on the bench? I mean, I guess it was working up until this point. Uh-oh, chat. Into the paint! Into the paint to Griner, but it was tapped away by the miss. Uh-oh, is she going to go to the line? Can she win it on these free throws here? Can the Phantom close it out? Brittany Griner at the line. Side out of bounds. What do we got going on? I think we got a timeout for now. We have to get some volume on this one, chat. It's too good not to miss what the announcers are saying. Who's the announcer team for the Unrivaled League? We got Reggie Miller. Who do we got? Candace Parker? It's got to be Candace Parker, right? Overtime Megan? Bro, we got to get Overtime Megan in the Unrivaled League. TNT. If there's anybody at TNT listening, I guess, you know, we're not trying to get her to lose a job as well, too. But if there's any way to get her an extra job over in the Unrivaled broadcast, I'm just watching. I think it would be a good addition, you know? Some sideline stuff. I mean, you know, I'm capable of anything. In the booth, do whatever. But I'm just saying, just throwing ideas. Just workshopping some stuff, you know? Just imagining us being in the producer's room throwing out ideas. Are these the ideas we'd be throwing out, chat? So let's start a basketball league and maybe get OT Megan as a sideline reporter. But hey, sounds like a winning formula. Sounds like a great product and a great person to bring that product to the fans. Paul George still draining threes, chat. 76. The Sixers are going to give us a game tonight. We'll see what happens when we get into this fourth quarter here. Some clutch Paul George basketball? What are Paul George's clutch numbers this year? Have the Sixers even been in some clutch situations? I don't even know if they've gotten there. That's the other part of it too, you know? It's not like they're just, losing close games, unfortunate team. They're losing some games. Okay, side out of bounds. Yeah, maybe you can't win on free throws. That'd be a good rule. You don't want to win on free throws. I don't know if you want to take side out of bounds. You know, you got to do something to fix it because you can't have them hacking everybody on the last shot. But regardless, I guess. Maybe just can't win on a free throw. Like, you can add it to the point score, but your next field goal wins it. Griner. Combining the names, chat. Brittany Griner. The fadeaway. For the win. Seals it for the Phantom. Wow. Ice Cube. Look out. There's a new big three in town. There's a new 3-on-3 basketball league. Ice Cube better start getting some stock. Ice Cube better go to the Saudis if we're talking about buying the NBA and WNBA. He better go to the Saudis and be like, hey, let's get these two teams under one company here. Let's get this Unrivaled league and this 3-on-3 league in the same parent company. And that might actually work for Ice Cube. Are we just throwing all kinds of business ideas tonight? OT Megan and Saudi money? I mean, we're strapped in for 2025, people. I feel like we're really suggesting things at the forefront. But, I mean, you could definitely get the bag from the Saudis and also, like we're saying, partner with a thing that could be, I guess it's, these things are both basketball, but because they're different leagues and different organizations and different storylines, they do stand alone as a different product. So it could obviously work that way for the Unrivaled and Big Three as well. And the fact that it can be current versus the Big Three is more retired NBA players, that can make it a different dynamic as well, too, just in terms of the marketing. Oh, Taylor Rooks is doing sideline? Okay. I mean, we're not obviously saying replace Taylor Rooks, I think. Is there like a more prominent sideline role that we can put Taylor Rooks in? Maybe we just need like a Taylor Rooks cam during the game and then OT Megan doing a sideline. Oh, that's crazy, chat. We'll move on. Brittany Griner, 29 and 9. 1 assist. It is 3-on-3, so you're going to rely on your best players. 14 of 18 for Brittany Griner. I guess you don't need the defense tonight, chat, when you're making every shot. Uh-oh. Brittany Griner, a 3-on-3 menace. We could have projected that one. Maybe we should have seen that one looking at the lineups. A matchup nightmare. With that much space, it's not even just that the shooting. It's just there's no defenders out there. You're literally taking 4, and no of your other, but you're taking 4 people off the court. Almost half. So Griner's going to have all that space to try to operate, work in the post. Oh, Maxey darting to the rim. And it's the rebounding with the small unit. Oubre on the offensive glass. Dean Wade better get to boxing out. So what do we got here, chat? Now we got another game. Is that right? I don't want the unrivaled basketball to stop. Let's keep it going. Let's keep this unrivaled basketball going. This is fun, chat. This is great. Something to keep us entertained while the WNBA season is going. And I'm not saying this disrespectfully. I'm saying this as a compliment. Like, is this kind of like a mixtape for the WNBA in a way? And again, not trying to say that it's a lesser product. Not that you would view a mixtape as a lesser product. Potentially, some artist mixtapes are the best things that they've done. Maybe J. Cole's 3 mixtapes, or his 3 best projects that he has. But as a way to that appetite sort of, that it's not an appetite cleanser. It'd be a palate cleanser. Just that appetizer thing for the WNBA. To hold over that fan base and to keep everybody not just satisfied as well too, but to kind of keep yourself moving up as well. Because, maintaining that view and that prominence in the fan thing, it's like, there are some things and some products and some people that can, minimize their marketing and minimize that amount of time that they're putting in between projects or whatever. A guy like Bill Burr can be laid back, and when he steps up and drops a comedy special, like, it's always going to be a big deal. Kendrick, up until this year, of course, operated on this way. Like, he was always very limited with his release. I mean, again, the amount of music that he dropped in 2024 with an album and just dropping all those singles, it's got to be one of his highest, production years in general, outside of that stretch where, he was dropping the Black Panther album and then, having Damn in 2017 and all that different stuff. Like, those couple of years, but that's a couple of year run as well too. Like, that compared to 1 year in 2024. And then, he kind of always operated on a bit of a scaled back level. So for a sports league though, I think it's a little bit different. I think, you kind of need to be in the news and in the stuff and in the cycle year round. And not that the WNBA obviously can't be or isn't a 12-month around sport, but I mean, I guess, it just isn't at this point right now. Like, we've seen the popularity of it really grow when, when it's being played, and the amount of people watching the games were way up, and the storylines in the games, and just the overall investment in the team, and that even carries into the offseason, like we're saying. Like, that is obviously stronger, but is the WNBA running as strong in the offseason? You know, like the maybe sort of the graph chart for WNBA in-season to off-season hype, like how does that sort of look compared to the NBA and the NFL at this point? And again, the WNBA is making great strides. This is not to put it down. This is just to say that this can be a very beneficial thing for that as well, too, for the fact that it's the active star players in the women's basketball league like currently playing, because the big three can't really do that for the NBA. The big three can't supplement the NBA in that way. It can supplement NBA fans, but it can't supplement the league directly, because it can, again, satisfy the appetite to just watch a competitive basketball game, and it gives you the fun of watching those old legends that you really like. But the fact that you can still watch these current players and maybe get exposure to certain teams and people as well, too, because again, while people were tuning into certain games more so than they have been before in the WNBA last year, like a lot of those were national games, and a lot of those maybe were, you know, games based around a couple of players. But again, like speaking about like Rickea Jackson or, you know, Brittany Griner, who, of course, you know, maybe for other reasons, like, of course, we all know about Brittany Griner, but, you know, as the basketball thing, maybe her sort of view as a basketball talent is not the same that it was, you know, before she, you know, unfortunately got arrested. But with her performance in a league like this, and with her dominating other current players, again, it's like, oh yeah, this is a reminder that she is one of the top players in the sport, and one of the dominant players still, and can still really go out there to dominant level. Rickea Jackson as a rookie, like we're saying, you get Angel Reese, you get Cameron Clark. Cameron Clark? What? Caitlin Clark. I'm thinking of Cameron Brink. Caitlin Clark and Cameron Brink. You get who's the other one I'm thinking of, chat? There's another one in there. Aaliyah Edwards. There was JC Sheldon. There was a couple, but I'm thinking there's another one. Maybe that was the big three, right? Clark, Brink, and Reese. I guess because I combined Cameron Brink and Caitlin Clark, I was thinking there's another player, but it is actually just, yeah, those three. But like Rickea Jackson, like we're saying, maybe gets lost in the shuffle a little bit from a narrative standpoint, but has the opportunity to shine in the big three, and then immediately you can go watch her in the WNBA next season and go, oh, how is this going to translate? How is this going to interpret? Is she going to go out there and be one of the best year two players? Are the Sparks going to be like, what kind of improvement are they going to make as a new team? Because again, it's the same players, same storylines, and it's just another outlet to be able to build connection with the fans. And I think that's exactly why they were doing it as well, too. So I got to say, one half of watching a pretty exciting basketball game, I'm all in, chat. That's all it took. Took a quarter and a half. I'm in. If the basketball's going to be good, then it's going to be hard for me not to watch. Pause. That's crazy. Sorry about that. Vinyl Basketball Club's also pretty cool. Is that the team that's up next? The Vinyl versus the Laces. Okay, the Laces is, like, you know, this league's in its infancy. Not every name's going to be a 10 out of 10. But the Laces, I guess it's just the idea of, like, that being the mascot of your team, right? Shoelaces. It's just a little lame. But the Vinyls is cool. I like that. I like that that's a different thing from almost any kind of other team name. Like, most team names are like animals or what? Things? Like some version of a person from history, you know? Some historical person or an animal. It's going to be one of those two things. I guess nobody's really used Gladiator yet. You know, I was going to say Warriors. Like, Warriors, you know, Golden Knights, a couple of other ones that unfortunately are just out of rotation. I guess not unfortunately, but, you know, are out of rotation at the moment. But I guess unfortunately for the purpose of adding names onto the list. But in terms of, yes, doing the right thing, of course, fortunately, they were changed. But what do we get? The Valkyrie now? And I guess that's not a historical figure. That's more of a fictitious figure. I guess maybe not to some, you know. We're not trying to get controversial, but you know, we were thinking Valkyries from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not from literal Norwegian mythology. You know, they'll say their prayers to Valkyrie. We don't want to get people offended about that, but you know, in terms of that kind of Marvel Valkyrie, that is fictitious, anyways. So, you know, the fact that it's like a object is like a thing, you know. There's no like Cleveland dildos or anything. You know, there's no Philadelphia. There's no Philly cheesesteaks. You know, we haven't gone into like the food route for a team name. That would be definitely the most natural one, maybe. Boston clam chowder. You know, like a Maryland crab roll. I guess there is a couple. But then, you know, we've had to change some names for some slurs. So if we like name a team the Maryland crab rolls, like I'm not I'm not pointing fingers at a single group. I'm just saying that sounds like a term where somebody might be looking up saying, wait a second, what does that mean? But the vinyls, I like it. Maybe the DJ can actually spin vinyls for the games. Like, you may be laughing that off, chat, as like a mid idea, but if you've actually seen on YouTube and stuff, like people actually do the vinyl DJ sets, it's actually pretty sick. I mean, it'd be a lot for a DJ to bring in, like, you know, his 100 vinyls for the night. I guess I don't know how many songs exactly would play on a in-game arena playlist, but it's not even just the in-game as well too. You gotta, I mean, I'm assuming that DJ is DJing the whole time, right? There's not like a pre-game DJ, a post-game DJ, and a in-game DJ. It's not the pop out. It's not like you have, you know, DJ Head does the pre-game and then Mustard does the halftime and Kendrick does the in-game or something like that. You know, I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. I'll DJ the entire time, but you've got, you know, as soon as the stadium opens all the way up until, I guess, you know, the game ends as well too. But you don't have to necessarily DJ everybody leaving the arena if you don't want. But you know, you got at least 4 or 5 hours to kill there. How many songs would be in like a 5-hour playlist? Can we look up a playlist real quick? How big is the hip hop mix on Spotify? Pause. It's like 255. Would that get you through? I mean, 255 would be just the game. And with the commercial breaks as well too, you know, that'd be close. Does anybody have, I feel like all my playlists would be like, they might actually be too big for that. Pause. Okay, 20. This one's 11 hours. How many is in this 11-hour one? 190. So 190 can get you 11 hours. So if we just half that, you know, like 95 songs, is that going to be 6.5 hours ish? You know, would 90? So would 100 songs get you through a game? Would that get you? Are there in-game playlists on Spotify? I've never thought about this until right now, chat. Let's see. Spurs in-game playlists. I should probably be looking this up on the computer so you can see. Oh, there are a couple. There's one from 2013, and there's just one that is not labeled as a year. But wow, I mean, this doesn't even need to be from a year. This is just some timeless songs. Shout out to San Antonio. I guess confession time. We've never been to a Spurs game in person. I guess that's not a spoiler. It's not like we've ever said that we've been to a Spurs game in person, or, you know, you've never seen us go. I mean, make no mistake, we definitely would have documented that. There would have been a full reaction episode to the Spurs in-game experience from a hotel room somewhere. But I guess, you know, going back into the pre-pod kid days, there was no Spurs game, home game. There was some Spurs aways game in the Midwest. But to actually go, like, we're saying the Spurs in-game DJ. What is he bumping? But this is crazy. I don't even know. Were they actually bumping some of this stuff? We've got Nicki Minaj pounding. I mean, of course there's going to be Nicki Minaj. But Eric B. and Rakim. They're playing some Eric B. and Rakim in the Spurs games. Followed up by some Owl City. Some Good Time. We've got Don't Sweat the Technique right into Good Time by, or I guess, CeeLo Green, Demi Lovato, The Hives. And then Good time. We got a run going here. Some Luke Bryan, some Timbaland, some Jay-Z, some Blueprint 3 from Jay-Z. Let's look at this 2013-14 one. We've got DJ Snake, Turn Down for What? Top of the World. The Man, Aloe Black. Happy by Pharrell Williams. Oh, man. We might be having to go to the bathroom during that song, I think. That song was everywhere during that time. And it was everywhere because, of course, we couldn't stop watching Despicable Me. But Brighter Lights, Bigger City, CeeLo Green. I think this is just a staple at Spurs games. Blurred Lines, Too Close, Lost in the Echo, Linkin Park, Halftime, Dirty Talk, Pompeii, Burn, Hypnotize, You're the Best, Beautiful People, I'm Too Sexy, hashtag Selfie by the Chainsmokers. So we know that that is for that's like a video board segment. That's the selfie cam. So I don't think they're just bumping the. I mean, shout out the Chainsmokers, you know. I mean, not to say that there's not songs that are not popular enough to bump at a NBA game, but I don't know if hashtag selfie. I mean, I literally don't even know how that one would go. But yeah, Katy Perry, Dark Horse, Let It Roll, Flo Rida, some Chris Brown, Turn Up the Music, Don't Wake Me Up, Daft Punk, Get Lucky, Don't Lose Yourself to Dance, of course, staples, especially early 2000s, 10s. Talk That Talk, Rihanna, Jay-Z, gotta have it. Let's Get Loud, Jennifer Lopez. Okay, this Spurs DJ, shout out. I don't know if this is the same guy in 2013. Maybe we need to know more about our Spurs in-house DJ. We should catch up. Wow, so somebody actually made a playlist. What about should we look up the Chiefs? I should just look up the Colts for NFL, but no, nothing for the Chiefs. Colts, we got anything for the Colts? Nope, just a bunch of Colts reaction pods. And apparently GNX also. Anytime we search a team and they don't have a playlist on here under that team name, just GNX pops up. So I think everybody's just bumping GNX right now. Let's see. Who were they? They're playing in Philly, so Eagles. In-game playlist. Okay, GNX doesn't pop up for this one. Wow, East Coast, Philly, staying strong. Picking a side. Lakers. Are the Lakers playing GNX right now? Lakers in-game playlist. Oh, some Big X the Plug is suggested? Oh, because O2 Lakers? Yeah, okay. Makes sense. Number one Lakers fan. Couple of Lakers audiobooks. But a couple of LA Leakers freestyles as well, too. And a LA Leakers style by Central C, which is kind of perfect timing, chat, because, like I said, we do have Central C's album that dropped last night, this morning. If you guys have listened to it already, we will go through it. So let's take a quick break, actually, chat. And then on the other side of that break, we'll be reacting to Central C's album, Can't Rush Greatness, the studio debut from British drill rapper Central C. Is that the right genre, chat? We're bad with genres. But regardless, Central C, we're an NBA fan. So positionless basketball, genreless music. We just listen to music. We just expect guys to just play basketball. You know, it's just all whatever is the best just gets in the rotation. So Central C, we'll see if that album makes the rotation after the break.
Okay, chat, we're back. And as you can see, Philly is still hanging in there. I guess this is a little bit behind. We're into the fourth quarter now. Let's get this updated. It should be 110 to 107. 8 minutes left. And you're right, that 110 is still the Philadelphia 76ers as well. So haven't really seen the Sixers make that many field goals, to be honest. They're sneaking them in right when we're not looking. Pause. That's a crazy pause. Hot start when we're back off the break. But there is one thing we do have to look up before we get into the Central C album. I think it will be for the greater good because it will keep us less distracted. And we just need to look up who's playing in this next game. We just need to look up the rosters to make sure we know who is playing on both teams. We were hearing during the break, listening to the game on in the background here. It was Leah Boston had the ball at the moment. Pause. But again, laces versus vinyls. Do they just have the rosters here? Yeah, okay. So we've got on the court for the laces right now, not the aces, the laces, Kayla McBride, Alyssa Thomas, and Tiffany Hayes with Stephanie Dolson and Kate Martin on the bench. I guess Jackie Young isn't active. There's like a player here in they've got the 5 players bolded out, and then there's one player kind of, a little different color than the rest, and I guess that means my guess is that means that player's in street clothes tonight. But for the vinyl, it's De'Erica Hamby, Ryan Howard, Arike Agumbawale, Jordan Canada, and Aaliyah Boston. Ray Burrell is the inactive player tonight. So this is tough because we've got Aces players on the laces. Maybe that's why they are the laces. They just, came to mind because it's so close. But Kayla McBride and Kayla McBride, former Aces. Jackie Young, Kate Marson, too, also former Aces because she got drafted in the expansion draft. Tiffany Hayes, so Jackie Young, I guess, is not playing. So Tiffany Hayes, do we root for Tiffany Hayes or do we root for Arike Agumbawale? I feel like Arike Agumbawale is kind of always, unlike Pat Mahomes, unfortunately, like we were saying why are we on the wrong camera here, chat? Is that better? Okay, there we go. With Mahomes, I feel like we were sneaking on Mahomes before a lot of people. With Arike Agumbawale, we fell in love as a player when everybody else did, when she was awesome in the tournament. And she broke out her national spotlight, took down UConn, won, and then took down UConn in the Final Four, and then the next game, I think, was it UConn and then South Carolina in back-to-back games? Beat both those teams? Before Don Staley got there, I believe. But still, 2 powerhouse schools for that side of the college basketball. And, she's continued to dominate as well. So I feel like we might be a Vinyls fan, chat. I think that might be our unrivaled team. I think we might have just claimed it. I don't know how this works. Is it going to be is this a keeper league? Do they just get to keep the same people every year? Because I feel like we might have to gear toward is Asia Wilson an unrivaled? Uh-oh. If Asia Wilson's unrivaled, we might just have to root for Asia Wilson's team. It's just what it is, chat. We're biased and we want to win. Oh, no Asia Wilson and no Caitlin Clark. So 2026, make no mistake, they'll be there next year. You can already tell that this is fun. These games are close. The short court, I like the pace of the game. Who's on court right now? Kate Martin. Agumbawale attacking the rim. Putting it in. Pause. Or was that Canada? Shout out. We're not here for the WNBA analysis, chat. We're just here for the entertainment and the good time. That is for sure. You can tune into the more knowledgeable WNBA experts for the real takes. But, we'll definitely sit here and root for the vinyl like a true fan. We'll work in a couple of new superstitions for this team as the game gets closer down to the end. But Central C, chat. It's time. Central C. It's time for him to drop an album, too. Because I guess there was a couple of things that I was thinking about just before the album dropped. And like when you think about Central C's music, like it is obviously, and obviously a lot of most people, obviously genre, whatever, but just even people within the genre, like even like, not to just compare everybody to the big three of Kendrick, Jay, and Cole, but there's obviously versatility and maneuverability with what those guys are doing, even within those music. You can't really feel like even within it you would go, oh, this is like trap or this is this thing. Like obviously, Drake has moments where it's like this is R&B. Kendrick has had moments, especially on GNX, where like he's leaning in more toward the West Coast sound here. But you still don't necessarily know from a sound standpoint what you're going to get from an artist like that. And of course, a new artist like Central C, it's like when you hear about his music, and we're of course not like he's not a lot of his like hits, of course, are the songs that have made it in our rotation. But in terms of like going through his actual catalog, going through it recently was the first time for us. But again, it's still early on in his career. It's not like we're getting in on Grey's Anatomy now. Two Grey's Anatomy references this episode. But Grey's Anatomy, it's still around, chat. People are still watching it. But it's not like we're looking at it going, oh man, we have to catch up on Central C's catalog now. Of course, like we're saying, no, this is a studio debut. So I guess it was just like from a sound standpoint, was this gonna be like a UK drill trap album? Like, is that what it's definitely gonna be, or are we gonna get some kind of, how wide and what kind of variety were we gonna get? Pause the wide. But for the soundscape for Central C's album, and how he's able to execute it either way as well too is obviously going to be the main thing. But then from just his own sort of popularity standpoint as well too, like you could definitely say that this is he's a rising star and this is a moment for him and all that stuff. And like he is still rising because he's still so early on in his career, but it's like, no, Central C like is already a star. And the hits that he have are some of the biggest like charting hits. He's one of just the top streaming hip hop artists in general, if you look at the monthly listeners on Spotify. So yeah, he hasn't actually made it to the full on studio debut project yet, but again, he doesn't necessarily need this to make him a star. I think he maybe even references that in one of the songs. Like he already has made it to that level. And I was just thinking back of like the last couple of years of like debut guys like that and debut people like that, especially for the hip hop people that have kind of approached the debut, have already had some kind of big star level. Because like we're still waiting for the JID album this year, obviously, but we got Utopia in 2023 from Travis. Like Tyler is obviously Chromacopia was like his 8th album, but even if you want to take the first couple albums out and start his like real career at Flower Boy, like he's still 4 like of those like critically acclaimed albums in at this point. Even JID himself is 3 albums in and will be his 4th one in when he drops. Like those guys are here and like at, of course, the peak of their powers and are in for like, it's like the Tatum and Brown thing where it's like, no, Tatum is not really, and for I guess Tatum and Brown and Luka and Shea as well too is entering that phase where it's like, no, these aren't the young guys anymore in the league. Like, yeah, of course, they're still younger compared to Jokic. Like they always will be, of course, younger compared to Jokic and Giannis and those guys. Like that's the thing with time, chat, is they may catch them with some of the stats, but they'll never catch them with age. And I don't know if they'll want to, chat. I think they'll want to stay where they're at in terms of at least pacing them from behind like that. Pause. But you're the next generation in the league now is you're looking at and you're like, oh no, next up is like even Edwards is teetering on it. Like Edwards is a season or 2 away. Like he's still young enough where he gets put in the next generation class, but he's also, done enough in the playoffs, or done some stuff in the playoffs as well too, where he gets a little more pedigree than that. But you're looking at Wemby, and I guess Edwards is I guess maybe the first guy in that generation. Is he's kind of leading that class from an age standpoint and from a talent standpoint as well too. But
just the last run of number one picks where it's Edwards, Cade, Wemby, and Paolo, and then the picks in those guys as well too. Like, I mean, Jalen Green is not Paolo, but guys even like that starting to elevate their game and become the next generation of just that's the next talent that's starting to flood the league. And you go, oh no, there's a shift now from, it's like a generational shift. Everything is shifting up where the guys that used to be the young guys are in the prime, and now there's this new wave of young guys approaching. And it's like, oh no, these guys that it's like we're next up or waiting for. And the big three have kind of done from a prime standpoint thing what the prime NBA players have done as well too, and just being this dominant for so long. And I know this point has been made as well too, but like a lot of unfortunately a lot of the star rappers from the 90s just weren't able to see their careers just being alive get into that point. So it's like, yeah, some guys have had still commercial success posthumously, but that's just a different type thing. And then you look at Nas's career, like, I mean, he was getting commercial success there in the all throughout like the early 2000s and even into like early 2010s with Life is Good and stuff, and then still was achieving a critical, still is even recently achieving the critical acclaim with like the King's Diseases and stuff. And it's not like J. Cole and Kendrick and Drake are in their Nas King's Diseases phase yet. Like that would still be more like Stillmatic, Life is Good era type runs in their career for them at this point. But again, to just be able to keep the commercial success and just the straight up ability as well too. I know clown on Drake for the moves that he's making. It's like I mean, like we said in our reaction to the Fighting Irish freestyle, like just because there's all there's all these things in it that you can go, oh yeah, this is not the right move for Drake, but you go, oh, this is why the song should be the right move for Drake, because you look at that song and go, oh yeah, his ability and his flow and his beat. I mean, all this we know it, but it's like, yeah, I mean, he's still one of the best in the game. It's just like, unfortunately, he shouldn't be using it to just snitch on LeBron potentially, and just, or at least attempt to snitch on LeBron in all these like random type things. But to be able to level up the talent and still maintain the commercial success, and like Kendrick now, of course, is like elevated to the biggest level, biggest person. He's the hottest music artist in the game right now. Him and SZA are the top two. Like even Eminem, like, yeah, he was still having commercial success. 5, 6. What was his sixth album? Was it the Eminem Show? Because GNX is his sixth album. Obviously, Eminem's the highest selling of all time. But he was like 1 million with the Marshall Mathers LP. So it's like those 2, 3, and 4 that I feel like we're really carrying. And then again, of course, like even still, like with Death Slim Shady, like, I mean, the man is still commercially gonna be Eminem. Like, was still a top 10 album of the year. Just, yeah, in terms of how he was dominating the game. And Eminem's a perfect example as well too. Like, you see that album, like his ability from where it was back in the day is just the same. And again, like, Death of Slim Shady is his 12th studio album versus where those guys are 6 and 7 in a different. They're in the Jokic Giannis stage of their career where it's like, yeah, we know the prime is, and again, music is different than athletics as well too, potentially. But it's like, okay, the quote unquote prime, it's maybe, and like retirement, just who knows, like for Cole as well too, like, and just for Drake as well, like who knows how much longer, these guys will just keep on dropping music. But again, different spot for Eminem. But it's like, oh no, I just had to like do like a mental reset of the young guys and be like, no, wait a second, yeah, like these guys are not the next generation anymore. Yeah, they are the generation that is after Kendrick and Drake and J. Cole. They're the guys that came after them, but they're not the next generation. They're now. They're in the peak of their power. Tyler is, again, maybe outside of Kendrick, he's the biggest out the city since besides Kenny. That's why he's the one that's popular, because he can actually get through the the lyrics without stuttering. I don't know if he has to auto-tune and just chop out the stutters, chat, but we'd have to have a real on peak sound engineer to really, a lot of takes and a lot of edits to get through the lyrics. Behind the 100 gigs footage of Rem making an album there would not be like a one take. Rem goes into the booth, one take, drops the verse, you're like, he's on fire. It's like, oh wait, it's like, no, 100 gigs was 100 takes. 100 gigs was one song. It's every take of the song, every time we tried the verse. And there was a stutter, there was a retake, there was a just wandered down the rabbit hole. There was a time he just kept dropping bars about Wembanyama. And we were like, you can't drop bars about Wembanyama 7 songs in a row. You've got to diversify on this album. But again, the amount of success that Central C has been able to achieve, he's already been able to do this without even dropping an album. So I know that sometimes maybe the artistic sort of upcomer and the popular sort of upcomer, maybe they can be two different things. But going back and looking through it, it was like, obviously, popularity and quality definitely align. But we're not breaking news here, chat. But it was like, just going through and looking at and just making the list of actually like what is the young talent that we have right now, like resetting like what actually was the next generation. So I was going back since like 2019 and looking at who dropped debut albums since 2019. And in 2019 was actually a great year, and obviously that was, the farthest one out. So that is the one that we've had the most time to age with these guys. But you had Gunna drop his debut album in that year. DaBaby dropped that year. Chance technically dropped his debut that year. I know, he had a great Grammy run. And again, like Central, he had a rise before that album, and that album was obviously not, maybe didn't hit the way it was supposed to. But again, he dropped that year. Cordae dropped that year. Young Thug dropped his studio album that year. His debut album, Polo G, Rod Wave, Roddy Ricch, all in 2019, all dropped their studio debut albums. You also get Dave as well, too. And Offset drops his solo debut album. Again, he has the whole Migos run. So that's, I don't even know how you compare that. That's like Staubach entering the NFL at like 28 years old and just being like, okay, I'm here just as like a prime guy, just like right away. But, again, technically his debut album. Same with like Jay Electronica in 2020, where it's like, okay, obviously, Jay Electronica, not in the next generation, but he did drop his debut album in 2020. That would have also have been Megan Thee Stallion that year, Jack Harlow that year, Don Toliver, bunch of other guys as well too. I mean, you get NLE Chopper, NLE Chopper. I always said Chopper. NLE Choppa, Lil Tecca, Kenny Mason, King Von, R.I.P. Not picking a side, just R.I.P. in a lost soul. But Quando Rondo, 070 Shake, Key Glock, Young Nudie. You get a bunch of releases that year. 2021, Baby Keem, Lil Nas X, Montero drops in 2021, Ken Carson. So Coi Leray, Fabio Foreign in 2022, Flo Milli, ESTG, Tizo Touchdown, and Big X The Plug in 2023. I know Big X The Plug dropped his first, he leveled up between Amar and Take Care. But, he did drop that debut in 2023. And then last year for debut actual studio projects, again, guys have mixtape runs and all that stuff leading up. The guys have careers that build to that. But just getting to that studio moment and that full release, we had, Tierra Whack had a studio album, 42 Doug, Blast. We had the Ice Spice album, Glorilla, Boss Man D-Lo, which we reacted to with Sam live on the stream as well. So those would be like some of the bigger main studio releases. And, again, like Sexy Red still hasn't dropped like an actual studio album yet. Doechii, we're still waiting on the Doechii studio album. So there's still people that need to drop like a studio album. So I was looking back at those guys as well too that got like a potential Grammy nomination from the debut studio albums over the last 5 years, or people that would be in the mix, like Doechii as well. Like we're saying, didn't drop an album, but has gotten nominated for a couple of Grammys this year. So she's even getting that recognition in her mixtape run. Jack Harlow got nominations. I mean, we know what he's been able to rise to in his popularity. Corday, obviously, you know, maybe a little opposite on the charts of Jack Harlow, but you know, still getting the Grammy noms. And maybe more of his albums in our rotation. So I don't know. You know, he's winning at the end of the day, even though maybe the Spotify numbers are a little different. But those are all people that got nominated for albums. Jack Harlow's second album got nominated, not his debut album. But like we're saying, Doechie's mixtape got nominated, and not she hasn't even dropped her first album yet. And she also got nominated for some songs. Glorilla got nominated a couple times for some songs. We got Coi Leray with song nominations, Gunna and Thug, DaBaby, Jack Harlow. Oh, we also forgot to mention Pop Smoke as well too, with his debut album in 2020. Obviously, rest in peace to Pop Smoke as well. But you know, he got song nomination. Offset's gotten some song nominations. Young Nudie got a song nomination on Down Bad. And I wrote Friday got a song nomination for something. What did Friday get nominated for? I should know the track just because, you know, it's a track. But unfortunately, he has not made our rotation that much. Not yet, but like we're saying, he's on the rise. So he will at some point. Oh, he's on God Did? Oh, that's right. I guess that's right. I guess I didn't even know that. What does he do on God Did? I gotta be honest. I gotta go back and listen to that song. Haven't listened to that in a second. I'm not gonna lie. There are a couple songs of that album that are sneaky in rotation. I don't hate DJ Khaled, bruh. DJ Khaled's fine, you know. Like I hate his album. Shout out to NFR podcast, but NFR. I always want to say NRF, but it is NFR. Shout out, but stop hating on DJ Khaled, bro, just because he got a couple of Grammy noms. Let the man chill. Let the man drink his almond milk. But he got Friday a Grammy nomination. I guess Jay-Z got Friday a nomination with that verse. But he is on that song. So, and then just to look at popular streamers from this group as well, too, because this is where Central C, obviously, you know, fits in. Now having dropped his debut album, and, you know, the award stuff is what it is. It's a different category, but you know, Don Toliver has the most from this newer studio album. You know, if we put this as like the new generation from the last 5 years, Don Toliver would be leading in streams at like 38, Gunna at 36, Harlow at 29, Harlow and Thug both at 29, Glorilla and Megan Thee Stallion both at 28. Megan Thee Stallion, we also mentioned she had Grammy noms as well. Yeah, she actually. Oh, we forgot to mention the winner. Yeah, Megan actually won for Savage, and Roddy Ricch was featured on Racks in the Middle, of course, with Nipsey Hussle. And then Baby Keem and Kendrick, you know, Kendrick maybe. Does Baby Keem have, like, solo wins? I don't think so. But, you know, he is on there with Kendrick balling out. So Klay Thompson also gets a ring for being on a team with Steph Curry. And Klay Thompson is awesome on those teams. So, you know, it's credit to him. But Megan at 28, DaBaby at 27, and Central C fits in at 25. But again, just in terms of the hits and the replayability and the aux value that Central C provides with the singles that he's been dropping up to this point has been just on par with these other guys. And, you know, a guy like Don Toliver as well, too, like we're saying, you know, he dropped back in 2020. He's dropped like an album a year since then as well, too. So he's been putting in the work to get a little farther in his career as well. But, you know, Hardstone Psycho is his fourth album. His maybe sped up that career development timeline. So Central C, like we're saying, is still on that first album. But to really actually now see him in like a full artistic project, because I guess that's the last point in saying all of the numbers and stuff, is like, you know, we've seen, I think, his performances compared to some of the performances on, you know, even some of these performances that get nominated. You go, yeah, you know, he can in a fun way, like, go, you know, he can go bar for bar in a way with a lot of these guys, and, you know, have a really great drill beat that's, you know, really going to be catchy. But again, to see him in a full project, you really see him, I think, his potential lyrically as well, too, where, you know, he's really able to convey his story. Like, his ability as a storyteller is very unique, but he's able to have this aggressive approach in it with with the way that these trap beats can lean kind of heavy and still have this kind of soft storytelling vibe to the song, but it's still this like street lyrics and kind of tough way that he's going about it. It's just, I really like his approach for the lyrical content in this album. And it's again, you start looking at, it's like Kendrick the bar for everybody, where it's like, does everybody have to have the messaging? But like, even like, that whole, like we're saying, to have Kendrick and Cole in like the same generation, where it's like, and maybe just the guys that rise to the top are always going to be, there's always going to be those little separating factors. Like, I guess that would be the case for any generation. But I could definitely see him getting to that point where you're like, oh, there's like, and he's already kind of there as well too, with him talking about his own personal life and his message of hustling, and his message of, like we're saying, can't rush greatness, like his message of putting in the work, and his message of the fact that, and I was like watching a live stream as well too, like we're saying, this is his first studio album, and it's a big deal, and it's supposed to be like a launching point for a guy's career. But I was watching a live stream of him listening to the album and reacting to it, and I remember the guy had asked him just how long he'd been rapping for, and he's just like simply answered, he's like, a long time. Like, he's a guy that you can tell has gotten into the game young. And it's unfortunate, Chad. It's always you can always tell like the prodigy kids with just the way they drop these bars. It's like the same way with basketball, where even a guy like LaMelo, is that the comp? I was thinking about a comp, because we like to comp these albums to NBA players. That might be the comp. This might be a LaMelo level album, like a lot of fun, where there's a ton of replay value in it, and you can definitely see the potential for more substance as a player. And there's already a lot of substance there. Like, I think Central C might have more substance in this album than maybe LaMelo has to his game. That's a close, because I don't want to, like, again, it's not the build or tear somebody down to build somebody up scenario. It's just, if we had to do a substance ranking league, we're not talking about, I guess the NBA is, not the NFL. They're a little looser on the substance policies. But regardless, we're not saying anything to get LaMelo in trouble. We're talking about LaMelo's ability to project winning versus, the lyrical content of Central C's album. But it's like, yeah, LaMelo does have the playmaking and the floor spacing ability. Is there a little maybe ball hoggy shot taker mentality that he can fall into at times? Like, maybe. But you're like, okay, this is a guy that can definitely be a guard on like a really, really winning team. If he can, I think, like, if you put him next to Wembanyama, like, is he gonna make, like, how much is he's gonna make Wembanyama better, right? Like, we need Sam to call in and answer that question for us. If we start talking about LaMelo, is Sam just gonna catch a vibe and call in? I think that might be the one thing that, there's a couple of things. It is conference championship weekend. Chiefs or have a high stake matchup coming up. I know he said he was as confident as ever, but make no mistake, this may be like a will we see Sam if they lose or win kind of situation, Make no mistake, if the Chiefs lose on Sunday, I think we see Sam the Friday after that. But if the Chiefs win, he might call in like Tuesday. Like, it might be one of those type of situations where he's like, oh, wait a second, I got 5 minutes. Like, we're like, wait, what happened? The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. Sam's got some free time. But Sam needs to brag about his Chiefs. Like, funny how that works out. But he's fortunate that I'm one of the few people that's left out there that can still handle the Mahomes talk, because it's slim pickings. Everybody at work right now is like ready to see the Chiefs lose. They're rooting for the Bills. They're rooting for Josh Allen, and I don't blame him. Again, it's his time. Josh Allen has completely earned his rise, and Central C, I think, probably had a stronger debut than some of Josh Allen's rookie seasons. So does Central C have more potential than Josh Allen even? Who knows? Could Central if Josh Allen beats Pat Mahomes, is that like Central C taking down Kendrick in a rap battle? It'd be like if Josh Mahomes, if like maybe like rookie or second year, or maybe again Central C maybe a little better than like rookie Josh Allen, but like the early good version of Josh Allen beating Pat Mahomes. But like maybe a Central C like 4 or 5 albums from now versus Kendrick. Look out, Kendrick, UK. It's gonna be a reverse Tea Party situation when Central C goes in there with some bars for the West Coast. But no, shout out if it ever goes to Kendrick. At the end of the day, brother, Canada, we're USA, baby, Team USA. No, we're kidding. If well, I guess we're not kidding. We're we'll back the USA in a rap battle for sure, I guess. But if Canada became the 51st state, does that complicate things? Because it's like, well, then Kendrick doesn't necessarily have that on his side. I guess, yeah, of course. It's not even round 2 at this point. I don't even know. Are we the lawsuit? Is this like round 5? Pause. Like, what round of the rap battle are we in right now? Like, what is this? Is like Kendrick hasn't even like walked out. Like Drake is just punching himself in the in the ring at this point. Like, we're in round 6 of the fight, and we're like, Drake, Kendrick hasn't even moved, and you're just beating yourself up. Like, maybe you should just, if Kendrick's not gonna move, just go chill. The fight's over. Unfortunately, Kendrick got you in the earlier rounds, and the refs would have called it anyways. But unfortunately, you've also done enough damage as well too that the refs got no choice. There's too many bruises. Like, you gotta just give the battle to Kendrick at this point. I don't know if you keep punching yourself, if that's gonna get what is that gonna get Kendrick to come out, and then is he just baiting Kendrick by beating himself up? It's like, okay, I guess I'll go back in and fight this guy, and then surprise swing on Kendrick. And then it just has to be like a one-shot knockout. I don't know, chat. I don't know. Okay, we definitely lost Sam. We had him with the LaMelo talk, but the Drake talk, it's tough times for his boy. That's like the one thing about there's the yin and the yang. The yang, or I guess we might need Google Translate to figure out which one's which. But the good version is the Chiefs right now. The opposite side of the Chiefs maybe winning the three-peat is Drake is suing UMG, and whatever developments are going on with that, and his legacy is tumbling. And I don't know if Sam's just had to find comfort in Boss Man D-Lo instead, and maybe the new Central C album as well too. We'll see. But again, as we going back to the popularity thing as well too, like just for the amount of like potential, I think the number that this could do could potentially be up there as well too with some of these numbers that we've seen, because I guess I think it could be. I guess I'm curious if it could be. Like, is Central C already like a solidified star like that? Like, does he have a couple of hits, or is there a staying power? Is there going to be a word of mouth thing with this album? But again, like, if you just look at the monthly streamers, like, if Megan dropped an album right now, what did Megan's last album do? I guess Don Toliver did like 70-ish with Hardstone Psycho, and that album, obviously the replay value of that album has been a lot bigger than that first week number maybe. But Megan's debut was at like 100K. So what was Megan at this last year? Was that a top 10 for this past year? It might have been. Oh no, that was at 64. Okay, so he might end up in like the 60 to 70. I mean, he's probably going to debut top 3 at the, like, I would lock him in for like a top 3 debut almost. So, I mean, that's incredible for the first album. You got to take that. But I also don't know how they calculate the singles into the sale, because again, it's not technically like the first week, but do you get some kind of number that gets calculated in there? Because that would carry as well too, especially if he was going to end up in like could he end up in the 70 range, but then if he just, that single is so awesome that it's like, right, the number on that is so crazy that it's like puts him over 100,000. But like, yeah, the Megan debut was 100,000. The Roddy Ricch was 101. Chance was 108. Montero was 126. Thug was 131, and then Pop Smoke, of course, 251 for his debut. Gunna was 90, and Offset was 89. So I know for like my own personal rotation, like Don Toliver and Doechii, those are probably going to be, if I was like power ranking the next, if we were going to do like a next generation power ranking, that would probably be the 1 and 2. And then that's definitely tier 1. And then it just, I guess, depends. Do you want to go like lean into the popularity or maybe like some of the, but I feel like it's pretty balanced at that point. Like Baby Keem has dropped 1 album. Like, come on, bro. You're going to have to bulk up the catalog a little bit. Like, do we kind of, you have to put a guy over Jack Harlow over Baby Keem just because Jack Harlow's actually putting in the work at this point. He's actually giving us some music. Like, Baby Keem just goes to the bottom of the list until he gives us the next album. Playboi Carti, you're not even in the, you're in the guys that should be in your prime, but we're bringing you back in the conversation and we're putting you at the bottom of the list until you drop the album. Again, Playboi Carti's not even like a guy that's a mainstay in our rotation. I'm just, the Playboi Carti fans of like they want the album so bad that I actually feel bad for him at this point. They went the whole 2024 year without getting it. It's like, nah, Playboi Carti, drop that sucker. Let's get that out there. Let's see what's going on. I'm curious. I'm like, what's going on with this Playboi Carti album? Is the hype actually gonna benefit him? Is this the thing? Is it gonna catch the attention of people like me? That the Whole Lot of Red, of course, was successful, but maybe I wasn't even in there for that first week number. But now it's like, yeah, you know what? I'll probably be throwing that Playboi Carti album on Spotify pretty quick because I just want to see what's going on with it. Got to check out the Playboi Carti album. But, Central C, again, I think is right at the top of the list after seeing his full project and seeing him be able to carry it lyrically for that type of thing. And shout out to Philly. Just a random Friday night win in Philadelphia, 132-129 versus Cleveland. Wow. Paul George, Kelly Oubre, towel over his head. That means he had a good game. Dapping up some guys. It's like, if the towel is like it's like, is our hood in bad game territory? We need to back it up a little bit. But if you kind of get it like back of the head, good game. Face exposed, but the cover up, that's bad game. That's right in the tunnel right away. We lost. Losing streak. Tatum and Brown right now, towels all the way over the head. That's maybe a pause. But either way, yeah, Central C really showed out here. Super impressed. And really love the way it progressed sonically as well, too, because, again, I don't know if we're going to sit here and talk like classic album conversation or whatever. That's not to diminish the quality of the album. That's just, I don't know if I can judge an album in the instant. I was seeing online, though, like just looking at the reaction to it, it seemed like it was really consensusly positive. Like, even an album that is good, like, there's people trolling. But it's like, I don't know, there was like a lack of Central C trolls out there. Like, Central C, is he the lowest trolled guy right now? Maybe there's just a side of the internet that we're not on. Like, if we actually go into the internet, then it's like Central C is just getting roasted every day. But for what we were seeing for the album anyways, seemed like Can't Rush Greatness. I don't know, Central C. I guess maybe he didn't rush it. He took his time with the album, like we're saying, just in general for the course of his career getting there. Had a good run with, of course, some very fortunate hookups and some collaborations, rather. But, his singles as well, too, on his own that he's done have been, yeah, of course, Drake is Drake. And even, like, from a UK standpoint, like, Dave is Dave. That single that he has with Dave is one of his most, if not his most streamed. And the Lil Baby is also a star. Like, yeah, if he has a collab with Lil Baby, like, that might pop off. But, like, Central C is the best part of Band for Band. Lil Baby's flow, of course, is really smooth on that. But, and it is like, okay, yeah, like, is this just the new lane for Lil Baby? He just needs to make sure to just maybe, yeah, I know he's talking about like another album and stuff, but it's like maybe get on some more features and just, limit your exposure where you can really focus on that. You can let that silky flow just really shine where you don't maybe have to carry a verse in a different type of way. And you can let, a guy like Central C come in and drop some bars, and then, you can kind of do your own thing on the other end. And then, take your time with the next album. Get your clout back up a little bit. But and that was another one too. People were just comparing that right away. I guess that's 2025. We're early on in the cycle, and that's a couple of the only ones we've gotten so far. But I guess because Shout out Mac Miller. Like we're saying, that's its own separate sort of thing. But between Lil Baby and Central C, seems like Central C has overtaken Lil Baby for album of the year. Just 1 month in, 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in. Central C's got the early lead, people. So that is a point for the career. Like, I mean, even though it is like, if we're comparing 1 or 2 albums at this point, like, what do we get next? The Weeknd album? Like, the singles from Central C have hit much harder than the Weeknd singles. Like, yeah, maybe it's a different thing. Maybe Weeknd for his career as well too is, artistically capable of doing a whole more thing than Central C is. But it's like, yeah, what are you doing for me lately? What singles are you dropping in the rotation right now? What can I put in my playlist tomorrow? Central C is giving me band for band. I don't know. Are these Weeknd songs getting the play of band for band? I know Timeless is like in the Rap Caviar and all that stuff. What else has he dropped? There's like Sao Paulo or something. See, this is how you know they haven't been in the rotation. We don't even know the names of the Weeknd singles. Shout out to Playboy Cardi. It might be the only reason we know Timeless. It's probably just because the Playboy Cardi fans are keeping that one in the playlist alone. It's the only Playboy Cardi they got last year. So I guess Sao Paulo. Oh, Dancing in the Flames? Is that the other one? Is that actually going to be on the album? I don't know if he released the track list yet. I guess I don't know if he will either beforehand. But, I don't know if I have as high of expectations. I expect it to be a quality project. I think The Weeknd, of course, is not. I wouldn't say, I don't know why I would necessarily say he's fallen off anyway. I'm just saying that if we were going singles for singles, like Central C definitely won that conversation. So now let's just see what the rest of the album is anyways for our guy. But, 21 Savage would have had that last year for a while with American Dream. And, maybe that ends up a little farther down the list. And, maybe it's not like the number one project that he's ever dropped, but it's still like 21 Savage is a guy. Like, he's still one of the top guys in the league, right? In the league, Let me see what else. What was the timeline of drops last year? Like, what would have been the first thing to overtake it? Obviously, in our mind, Blue Lips would have been an album that we would have been bumping, but that would have been later in the spring. I guess Might Delete Later, did that drop? When do we get Might Delete Later? Yeah, we had 21 Savage on July 12th. Benny the Butcher also in July as well last year. There's a couple songs. Okay, so we had Vultures 1 in February. I guess that album definitely did a bigger number, and of course, Carnival is a massive song. Like, as a moment, that one may have stole the moment. It may have lasted a month. Yeet with 2093, again, an album that maybe, the Yeet fans, I don't know if they fully embraced that album, but still a massive project. Then, yeah, Blue Lips in March. And then I think we had We Don't Trust You. So We Don't Trust You was in May last year, right? April? Or no, yeah, March. A couple of weeks after Blue Lips. Probably another unfortunate reason why that album was not able to maybe... Did it block it a little bit just from sort of the conversation? So, of course, that one, then, of course, the rap battle, of course, took over the rest of the year. Even though there were projects that, I mean, like Chromacopia and stuff, but even like Dochi's project and others that when they dropped, it's like, oh, no, okay, we have to pause and give this one its due flowers. But, up until then, I mean, like we're saying, up 21 Savage to Kanye to Future, like, you're either a top guy or gonna be a top guy if you're claiming that top album of the year spot. And Lil Baby, star, so it's like Central C, star power of Lil Baby, but currently also dropping quality. But then that goes to also just show you the importance of that career progression, where it's like we're saying this is one of those albums where it is, the beat progression of it as well too, and there's definitely the emotion throughout the different sample selection. Like, it is able to take you through a good listening experience, but it is also still stays very much in that trap vibe. So in that UK drill, like, it's very much a UK drill album, but like we're saying, that sample diversity throughout it is really awesome from Central C. So you can already see, again, that just ear for production as well too is, I think, potentially just only going to grow throughout his career. And this album is a great start for that. And it feels like one of those movies where it's, I don't know if, like, is this movie, like, on the level of, like, a Step Brothers in terms of now, like, now we're talking about the great comedies. But, a movie like that where it's like, is it the artsy film? No. But, it's maybe even a little more complex than a movie like that as well, too. Like, what's a good comedy that's, like, you were like, oh, no, this is also, like, a all-time great movie as well, too. Like, what would be, like, a prime example as well? I guess for us, like, any movie like that would be, like, I want to say, like, like, what kind of critical acclaim would Rush Hour get? But it would be, like, a retroactive. I feel like the Rotten Tomatoes score on that would be good, though. But again, is that over time? Like, are we able to pull up an in-the-moment review of Rush Hour and see? I guess, like, White Man Can't Jump is, I guess, not that the Rotten Tomatoes score is everything, obviously. 62% Rotten Tomatoes. What are we doing? What are we doing? But, like, what's a comedy that's, like, got, like, a great plot, chat? Like, what's, like, the most critically acclaimed comedy of all time? Like, why can I not just, like, think off the top? The problem is I want to say, like, some, like, in the moment, like, some Woody Allen film, but retroactively, I don't think that would be the thing. And, it's also, like, what categorizes as a comedy as well, too. Like, is Nomadland technically, like, what was the Fish movie with the Shape of Water? Like, is Shape of Water technically a comedy? Like, the actual, or I guess even like an action film, like Skyfall. Like, maybe we should not even think about comedies. I don't know why I'm blanking out on a movie like that. I feel like the action film, maybe it's easier to get critical acclaim as an action film, because, like, a movie like John Wick or, like, Skyfall or those James Bond movies, like, those actually, like, the blogs will actually, like, favor those movies, but also we know, the fans love them and the rotation value is awesome for those as well. But let me go through, like, Best Picture here real quick and just see, like, yeah, like the Christopher Nolan movies. Oh, like, maybe like a Wolf of Wall Street type movie? I don't know. That's, like, kind of a complex movie as well, too. That might veer into more like a Kendrick album type thing. But Mad Max is, like, an action movie. But a movie that is, like, definitely a genre movie, but it's like, this is the high quality version of that movie. So maybe, this is maybe not an Oscar film either as well, too. So maybe we don't need to look at an, an Oscar. Again, shout out to Central C. Album of the Year contender in January, straight off. But, in, like, that, what was the one? I just had a great one. It was, like, the action film. Maybe like a John Wick or something like that, where in its lane, it's, like, really, really good, and the replay value is awesome. And it's, like, again, over time, I guess, maybe depending on what Central C's, what happens with his career, like, this could be one of those albums that is, like, will it maybe be looked back on as a classic album? Because, again, it's with the runtime as well, too, and just that consistency with that sample variety, just that's an oxymoron. But you know what we're saying, there's, like, that consistent trap vibe with the fact that he's able to diversify the emotion of the samples. It makes it for a really great listen. And if he's able to, and I guess even if he's not, like, this album is still going to be a great listen all the time. It's just, again, like, that classic status can depend on just giving Central C albums classic status right away as well. But I just, it's like, if it's a quality album, like, how will it age? because I've been thinking about that as a lot as well too, just with some of these albums. Like, you know, Section 80, for example, is a perfect album, like a perfect example where, you know, there's people in the moment that definitely recognize the quality for what that album was. But I mean, you know, Good Kid Mad City is on a different level of quality and consistency as well too. But, you know, in terms of a moment, like, that's a real moment. And I guess maybe, you know, for Drake, like, So Far Gone is probably not as great of an album as Section 80, but it did a bigger number. But it's like, you know, looking back at an album like that, because of how great Kendrick's career has become, it's like the nostalgia for that first album and, you know, the quality that you do find there. It's like, no, this actually, you know, it's like retroactively, can I put this album above some other album because it is a Kendrick album? And it's like this Central C, I think, has that type of potential where it's like, if Central C does continue to be a great artist, like, yeah, this will be a great genre album. If Central C continues to be a great genre artist, it'll be like, yeah, this Central C album was the studio album that was, you know, his first big debut, had some great songs, and it had that Band for Band on it. And, you know, we really loved going back to his UK. But I guess, you know, that's if this was his peak album as well too. You know, hopefully he continues to just even get better in his own lane as well too. But like we're saying, if he does continue to just level up, and like you see the lyrical content and you see what he's going for, and you see him being vulnerable, and you see him relating stories, and you see him building pictures and worlds of, you know, the places that he's come from and the scenarios that he's been in. And if he just continues to take all these pieces and push them forward, like, this is also going to be an album that we're going to be able to look back on and go, oh yeah, this really maybe actually was one, like, you know, it's like going to be looking back going, yeah, of course Central C dropped an album of the year. Like, Central C's a great artist, you know? Like, this album has consistent quality from a guy that is getting a lot of love at the moment, but I do also think has that potential to be, you know, down the line, like we're saying, continue to grow into like one of the elite young artists as well too. Like Big X the Plug, I know we have to put him in a power ranking. Like Thug and Gunna as well too. Like them with Don Toliver. Like we're saying, that's kind of that first year on that generation. Like, you know, when do you have to pick a cutoff for like that generation? But, you know, they've also just been putting in the work as well too. I know Thug, of course, you know, definitely had to take a little bit of time off. But and, you know, I guess, oh no, Dirk will be taking time off, not Gunna. Dirk will, of course, have an album dropping this year though. Will he do like a Tory Lanez Prison album at some point, if that's possible? A whole album from prison? Why not, Dirk? Just do it. Pause. Who cares? I mean, if that's what you got, that's what you got, right? But this was like a real, I guess, just in general, you know, a real solidifying status as Central C is like a real, it's all subjective, I guess, on just how you think of these guys. But it's like, oh no, Central C is like a real guy to look out for in terms of all this stuff. It's not just some guy on the radio that's going to be dropping fun songs in the aux for years to come. Like, no, this guy might actually be a force in music. He's going to continue to rise up the ranks as a hit maker, and he's going to continue to progress as an artist as well too. So, like we're saying, I mean, you know, if you're looking at the full, like, you know, what is an artist capable of? Like we're saying, you know, Don Toliver and Doechii. I think even Doechii in one project just showed a real versatility of what she, you know, just as an artist, there's really nothing that she can't do potentially. And, you know, kind of same with Toliver as well too. Like he's just being that great of a vocalist is like a cheat code. You know, you just have this whole other side of music that you can unlock as well too. And even within your songs, like the way you can string together a hook, the different ways you can use your cadence, you know, if your vocals are, because, you know, it's like Central C is like a rapper for sure. Like, you know, we're seeing Kendrick now with some of the melodic stuff really continue to improve throughout his career. And, you know, like the whole B side of Mr. Morale, like Mr. Morale is like a, you know, from where he's, I guess, you know, Kendrick is always, I mean, he's just such a smooth rapper in general. But, you know, even him and Cole and stuff can tap into kind of a melodic thing for sure. But, you know, Central C is a little, you know, he definitely does stick to the rapping for sure. But even still, it's like, yeah, can lock it in, people. Central C still delivered with the project, and still, I think, a guy that we know is going to be a force to reckon with in music for years to come, chat. But yeah, shout out to the Sixers. Do we need to do a quick game change real quick? Let's see here. Do we get this Grizzlies Pelicans game going? What's the score for that? Oh, Portland taking down Charlotte as well too. Let's do a little quick box score update for Portland versus Charlotte. Okay, 97, 102. What did we get LaMelo tonight? Was the Central C of the NBA out there? Can LaMelo start talking in a British accent and just make the comparison full on? Not to culturally appropriate, just to help with the comparison. Oh, this looked like a real bench game. Anytime Kamara's in the starting lineup for the Blazers. Nah, shout out. Kamara's good. But no LaMelo tonight. I guess I don't know if he's down right now with an injury for a period of time. But Cody Martin 0 for 3. Mark Williams looking good. 6 for 12, 15 points. 9 rebounds for Mark Williams in 31 minutes. A little surprising. I think Mark Williams is a little tougher than that. But 3 blocks as well, too. We know. Wemby's just going to distort everybody's view of blocks. But Mark Williams is good on defense. Don't get that mistaken. Nick Smith as well, too. I mean, LaMelo can definitely go 2 for 10. So Nick Smith, I think, subbed in for LaMelo tonight in a fair way. 6 assists, 17 and 6. Maybe LaMelo play makes a little bit better if he's not shooting the ball well. But, ooh, tough bench. We don't even need to adjust that for Charlotte. Shaden Sharp, 1 for 6 tonight. Oh, our guy. Advia, 11 for 14 from the free throw line, 18 points. Klingon with 13 rebounds, 4 points. Klingon is good, though. I like what I've seen from Klingon. 4 blocks, yeah. Honestly, the 4 points is fine. Yeah, 2 for 4 from the field. That's a credit to Klingon. He literally doesn't even need to take any shots. Klingon might be the one guy in the league that just doesn't need to take any attempts at all. Klingon could go 0 for 0 in a game and I think be totally fine. I mean, year 1, so maybe he's playing with a different kind of, eagerness, willingness. But, oh, we should also be paying attention to this unrivaled game. What just happened? I think they just hit a buzzer beater and we just missed it. Oh, and the Laces took down the Vinyl. It's a good thing we weren't watching. We're devastated, chat. Our favorite team, the Vinyl, have lost in their first or second unrivaled game. Oh, no. Are we going to be rooting for a rebuilding team? Do we pivot to the Laces now? Yikes. I think we should. No, chat. Of course not. We'll stick with the Vinyl. Aaliyah Boston? Jordan Canada? Arike Agumbawale? This is a stud team. This just needs some time. They'll develop. If it's a keeper league and we have Aaliyah Boston going forward, I mean, former number 1 overall pick, chat. We're chilling. We're in a good spot. But the tough part with Avia and the Blazers is, I mean, I feel like you could get a good trade value for him, but his contract is, I think, a decent contract. Did he sign an extension? Old Denny Advia contract corner here to wrap this up on a Friday night. I mean, this is why you tune into the REMINGTOM pod. How do you spell his name? Vijan? Something like that. It's just going to say this player doesn't exist. Oh, no way we got it right. Let's go, chat. Oh, no, we didn't. Shout out to Spotrack for the redirect. Yeah, 4 years, 55, and he's in the first year? 13.7 a year? I mean, in the modern NBA, unfortunately, you may not be able to trade this guy. There's just no trades that are possible. You can only trade guys that are $50 million for guys that are $50 million. But if you want to trade him for another $13 million a year guy, potentially, like, what move are you going to make for the, like, you're going to throw these contracts together and get a bigger contract if you're the Blazers, You're going to get a star player to match him with who? With Scoot Henderson right now? Probably not the time. So he honestly might just be a guy that you just keep around and just go, hey, guess what? We have a valuable guy for a while. I guess we we could do like a greater good for the league and get a guy with a good contract on a good team, but we could also just keep that for ourselves and just have him there. Because again, him and Klingon is nice. Like that is a nice two-man. That's two solid role players to have out there. To go, they'll not necessarily take away from a star, but a bunch of additive talents that'll just benefit any ball dominant player that they have out there. Scoot with in 23 minutes, 1 for 3 tonight. Yikes. At least, maybe 3 shots. Knew he didn't have it. But maybe if you're able to turn Simons into something fun. I don't know if there's a Simons to the Spurs potential at all. It'd be nice if we didn't have to, obviously, part with anybody. I guess I maybe am more a coach emotionally. I know, obviously, probably. I mean, as fans, we just all pretend we could be a GM because we all know we can't. We all don't want to sit down and learn the X's and O's. We just want to make trades and, figure out the salary cap. Because, it objectively would be more fun to be a GM than a coach, at least for me. I know there are a bunch of coach people out there that'd be like, no, the X's and O's, you got to get into the playbook. You got to coach the guys. You got to. Developing young men to me is always a weird thing as well, too. Like, I get it. Shout out. Being just say being a mentor, Anytime anybody says, anytime I'll develop a young man, like shout out to Dion. I love Dion, obviously, but maybe anytime we say we love another guy as well, too, that's probably sketchy. I appreciate Dion's coaching ability and his leadership skills, but I feel like Dion does drop I'll develop a guy quite a bit. Dion loves a young man. Dion loves developing a young man, which is just like, I don't know. I just go to ChatGPT and go, can I have 65 new ways to say, maybe not. Maybe ChatGPT is still in too new of a, if you're only using the free version, maybe it's like, wait a second. What do you mean by develop a young man? Is this against the policies of ChatGPT and now the feds are at my house? But, yeah, I think I'd rather do the team building stuff and make the moves, do the trades and the salary caps, the signings. Because it's just, how you spend the time is the job too. Like, obviously, the way you watch basketball as a GM, like I just would rather watch basketball in a talent evaluation standpoint than and that sounds like a judgmental thing, but it's like I don't know. I feel like for me, it's always like, and I'm trying to do the thing here, but it's like I always try to like really see the thing that jumps off, like the good things that jump off. And when you're nitpicking and, unfortunately, like when you're in the role of pretending as well too, like, when you're pretending to make a pick, like you do have to make a call of one person at the end of the day. So if you're walking somebody through your full thought process, like there are maybe going to be reasons against picking a guy, why there would be reasons for, but it's just one of those things where you're watching a game and you're like, it's always how it goes. You watch a game and you're like, oh, that person is good. And you watch a game and you'll go, oh, that guy sucks as well too. Like, make no mistake. Sometimes that jumps off the thing, but if you're watching it in that way, it's like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I love how awesome this is. And oh, wait, there's 6 other awesome things here. Like, this is a guy we can take, This is a guy that can get drafted onto the team and be additive. And, maybe as we go down the rounds, it's like, oh, now we're down to 5, 4, 3, 2 awesome things. But, but still, it's the talent that we have on the board. But either way, why would we... Did we just get on these rants, chat? It's just what it is. It's just what it is. But, yeah, Klingon and Advi are nice pieces for the Portland. At least tonight when they can beat the Charlotte Hornets, without any of their good players. But Grizzlies looking to get a win as well versus the Pelicans. Shout out. Maybe the Pelicans looking to get a loss versus the Grizzlies. We'll see. David Griffin. Unfortunately, he's like going to the owner like, hey, you actually want to lose games, He's in all these meetings like, no, the losing is good, man. We're going to get in the draft. We're going to get Cooper Flag. We're going to rebuild. We'll get trades. We want to lose. Losing is actually good for us this year. It's all part of the plan. Box score's a little covered up here. Oh, the return of Gigi Jackson. Whoa. Gigi Jackson is back. I didn't realize right until right now that he might be one of our favorite players in the league. At least just one of the players that we're most interested in to see the development of him as a young man, chat. No. But I think that has to be his first game. If there has been other Gigi Jackson games that we've missed, I mean, I'm going to get the Google alerts on my phone. Two games? No way. How many minutes has this man played this year? 21 total minutes. Okay. 7 points. We're chilling. I feel like we logged in just in time. We'll get in. We'll watch some of this fourth quarter. And we'll be tuned. Are the Grizzlies just going to play tomorrow? I think everybody plays tomorrow. So we'll just watch Gigi Jackson play tomorrow. John Conchar. The Grizzlies might as well. No Ja. No Jaren Jackson. Is this on the court, though? Yeah, it's on the court. Last couple minutes of the game. Let's see. Did we get a little Ja, Triple J? Or is this just the Grizzlies? I mean, the Grizzlies, you don't even need to check the box score to see who's played. It's just like, did they win? Did they not? The result is still going to be the same no matter what. Edie, 6 for 9. Kennard just, like, yeah, Jaws out. Okay, I'll just go 7 for 9 against New Orleans. Run off every screen and just hit every 3. Jaren Jackson, 5 for 9. Desmond Bain, 2 for 7. Shout out. CJ McCollum. No CJ McCollum sighting tonight? Uh-oh. Ooh, Gigi Jackson, though. Yeah, real minutes. 17 minutes, 10 points. Okay. Okay, welcome back, Gigi Jackson. Wow, what an exciting night, chat. Central C, Gigi Jackson, Denny Advia, Brian Schottenheimer, the REMINGTOM pod. Just a great cast of characters to help us spend just another great Friday night together, chat. Sunday, wow. We cannot wait. We got a little Eagles Commanders. We'll be live for that game. Chiefs Bills after that. That's going to be... Maybe, I don't know if that's the most anticipated game in the last 5 years, chat, because it's like, you know, every game they play is the next version. I mean, this is the next Manning Brady, you know? It officially is now, I think, after, you know, Lamar goes down, and this is the version of the matchup that we get. Like, this is now the rivalry. Lamar had a chance to maybe even the score a little bit with, you know, they played last year in the playoffs, back-to-back years. Now it's like, okay, it's his turn to go against Mahomes. Josh Allen had his run. Now it's Lamar's run. It's like Mahomes, the gladiator. He just takes down everybody that they throw at him. But pause. But no, it's like, no, officially it's Josh Allen versus Mahomes in this era of the playoffs. And we will see what happens. But like I said, we will be live Sunday for Commanders versus Eagles. Don't miss that. Subscribe here on the YouTube to stay tuned. Of course, we're on the social platforms. If you still have TikTok downloaded on your phone, you can follow the REMINGTOM pod over there as well. Of course, if you have the other social platforms not downloaded on your phone, but you want to install them from the App Store so you can follow REMINGTOM pod, I think you still can. You can still download Instagram. You can still download... I guess, do we need to get REMINGTOM on Snapchat, OnlyFans? Just sign up for these apps, and maybe we'll get a REMINGTOM count on there. Red Note? Just, why not? Just go get Red Note. Maybe you'll see REMINGTOM on Red Note. I don't know if it'll be this version of REMINGTOM, but there may be one on there. You never know. You never know. So the only way to find out is to sign up. But yeah, like I said, we'll be back Sunday. Thank you guys for jumping on tonight. Have a great rest